sincerely to admit that there's failure in administration, that there is gross incapacity. But it didn't take us that long for us to know. The first 3 months, in fact, before he resumed office, we knew that they were foisting on Nigeria a person who is devoid of integrity.
You see, it is easier for a court to say IPOB is a terrorist group because it is an association that is defined by objectives, and there are leadership, there are structure. You can easily define them as a group. So when you now classify such an organization, then anyone that associates with that organization can be said to be either be a member or aiding or abetting the advancement of such cause. Now, these guys are not structured. They don't go about under any name. They are just a bunch of criminals belonging to different camps and different groups that are operating under no name. Unlike JJN, that's Jamaatul Nasrul Islami, whatever, that's the Boko Haram, and the ISIS in the Islamic West African province. Those are groups that are defined by name and objectives. But these ones are a bunch of criminals.
The two major political parties are playing political games. One is watching the other and seeing the direction where the other is going before coming up with their own plan. What is clear is that both parties are in a state. The clamor, for power to shift to the south within the APC. And I'm sure that clamor is not being ignored. That informs the choice of the chairman coming from North Central to make it possible or a reality that power will shift to the south. Now the question is, which part of the south? Southeast, southwest, or south-south? That's a different issue completely. And I'm sure that is what will be resolved at the National Convention or through consensus has been speculated by some within the party. So whatever it happens, whether it's through convention or election or through selection or through consensus arrangement, what is certain in APC is that the candidate will come from the south.
Comic Republic is a Nigerian startup where we tell African stories. We push the African narrative forward through a traditional art form that is popular all around the world, which is comic books.
We kind of write stories that everybody can find a bit of themselves somewhere in there. When you read our books, you will always be able to find one book that you are able to connect with, even if you are not an African. It's not just for Africans alone, but it's the African narrative. That's really what we do.
We take the process of telling our stories, making our comic books engaging. We do it professionally and we take it as a business. We're growing bigger every day.
We try to make sure that all of our comics, all of our content has a positive message underlying them, even apart from all the action, all the punching, and all the superheroics.
Right now we have close to 48,000 downloads per comic book. We get between 5,000 to 7,000 unique visitors every week. Nigerians have been really excited to see people in Nigeria creating heroes from Nigerians, telling Nigerians that we can be everything we need to be if we only try. The comic business actually has a wide range.
One of the major things that actually helps us to move forward here is the fact that we are more than just a team, we are a family. And family is everything. We understand ourselves, we know what we're meant to do when we're meant to do, and we get them done.
The first and foremost vision for Comic Republic is to take control of the African narrative. Who are the biggest superheroes you know today? You're looking at Spider-Man, Captain America, and Superman. If you look at the colors of their uniform, they're all the colors of the American flag. If you look at where those people come from, they come from America. This is a way that a country has from generation to generation, program their people to believe that they are strong and they are efficient. We want to do the same with Comic Republic. That's what we want to do at Comic Republic. That's our vision. And until we're number one at that in the world, we're not going to stop.
Reading is an essential habit and a culture that must be developed. Nigerians are generally believed to have a poor reading culture. The role of government in promoting reading and equipping reading spaces and libraries in Nigeria cannot be underestimated. But first, we must look at the development of reading habits from the home and the role parents play in encouraging their children.
My parents, my mom used to be a teacher, so reading was obviously part of a curriculum. And then my father used to be a professor and is an author. So I started reading very, very early, and I started reading books that were higher than my age grade. I was reading African Writer series from age 7, age 8, and reading encyclopedias by that time. So obviously my parents had a huge part and encouraged that in me.
In the Nigerian book market, there's a high influx of foreign authors writing for children, but very few Nigerian authors telling relatable, homegrown Nigerian stories.
If you start out reading stories even to your baby, even before they're 1, and then as they get older, buy appropriate materials that are colorful, with easy to read words, and read with them. I think that helps.
Adedotun Enyade, a co-founder of Robin Heights, a leading bookstore in Nigeria, has tips for Nigerian authors and how they can improve on their work and get into the hearts of readers.
The story has to be good, right? If you're writing, whatever you're writing, if you're writing fiction, if you're writing non-fiction, it has to be like, really, really compelling, one. Next thing would be like in terms of like the packaging, right? People have gone past the era where you just take your books with just about any printer to print for you. I think, publishers, self-published authors as well, they need to invest in ensuring that the quality of the book, the final output is one that would, stack up with any book, published, elsewhere in the world. So that's really important. Then I think, what would be like the most important tip for me to them would be just, they need to invest in marketing.
The book business, like any other business, is challenging.
If you ask anyone who's running the business in Nigeria, they will tell you capital, of course, right? Book selling is also, as with any other business, is also quite capital intensive. Getting to pay your rent, getting to actually buy the books and stock up like your shelves when you have them. Hiring good people requires decent amount of capital. So I would say it's getting the startup funds to set up something, and then if you're looking to do it at scale like we're hoping to do, then it also requires you raising funding, which isn't readily available in commercial banks, right? I don't think a bank would say they want to give you a loan to set up a bookstore. They probably will be skeptical about the number of people who read. So for us, I think it's just I would say capital is at the top of the totem pole.
It is commendable that certain individuals and organizations are making concerted efforts to revive the reading culture in the country. The government should also redesign the school curriculum to incorporate more reading activities in primary and secondary schools.
Nigeria's Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels Africa's largest economy, where the lines between wealth and poverty has never been thinner. Conflicts, poverty, insecurity, and environmental challenges daily confront the region. How can the Niger Delta story be changed for the better?
Join Mamude Akuga at 9 p.m. every Friday evening on PlusTvAfrica as he probes deep in search of solutions.
Inside the Niger Delta with Mamude Akuga, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region.
Businesses in Africa can be very challenging. In Nigeria, it is particularly intimidating, and successful builders have learned how to navigate a hostile environment to unlock opportunities. But one major challenge businesses face is how to filter through the noise and identify where their ideal customers exist. Get insight and practical steps from industry players and captains of industries. Hear success stories to help you make informed decisions as you scale your business in Nigeria. Watch Business Insights at this time on PlusTvAfrica.
Hello and welcome to Space and Style, a property show designed to connect various stakeholders across the property value chain. We can also provide realistic solutions and deepen your knowledge about the interesting world of real estate. We shall showcase architectural design, interior design trends, lifestyle and real-time property news updates, and the right way to navigate through property development and investment. Join me every week on this channel as I take you through an exciting journey in the world of real estate.
Space and Style, 6:30 p.m. on Saturdays and 5:30 p.m. on Wednesdays.
Northern Nigeria is plotting to retain power, says a socio-political group. And the 2023 Nigerian elections will not be business as usual. This is according to INEC. The electoral umpire has warned electoral offenders against electoral malpractices. This is Plus Politics, and I'm Kofi Bartels. You're welcome. We sincerely apologize for keeping you waiting. But we have a very interesting conversation and, of course, an interesting guest you'd like to listen to standing by to join us at this time. Well, at a time when Northern leaders are divided over the issue of a consensus presidential candidates and leaders of certain social political groups in the country, Afenifere, the Pan-Niger Delta Forum, and the Middle Belt Forum, as well as some leaders of these groups. We have Pa Ayo Adebanjo, Chief Edwin Clark, and Professor Bitrus Pogu. And now they've accused the northern part of Nigeria of plotting to abort the shifting of the power in the country at the presidency to the southern part of the country. Now, these groups are southern groups, and they decried the insincerity of, or what they call the insincerity of northern leaders over the principle of zoning. They were stressing that after 8 years of Muhammadu Buhari's presidency, nothing short of zoning the presidency to the southeastern part of the country will resolve the restiveness in the country. I'm glad to say that the spokesman or national publicity secretary of one of the groups that released that statement, that's the Pan-Niger Delta Forum, joins us tonight on Plus Politics. Mr. Ken Robinson, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, and thank you to all of us, and good evening, Nigeria.
All right. Okay. It's quite remarkable, and some would say landmark, that we have groups from prominent groups, the leading groups from the western part, the southwestern part of Nigeria, where you have predominantly the Yoruba community, the southeastern part of the country that was also represented at that meeting, the Niger Delta part of the country, and the Middle Belt, all coming together to say that power must go to the southeast. Now, this hasn't happened before now. What's the difference this time?
We stand for justice, we stand for equity, and we stand for fairness. Some of the problems we are facing in Nigeria obviously are due to the absence of these issues in the conduct of government and in the running of affairs of state. And after 24 years of democratic rule or civil rule, as some would like to call it, it is proper that we do what is right, that we shift base and perhaps leave some of the things that we've done before. The biases, the imbalances, and all the unfairness that has been meted out to particularly the southeast and minorities. We of the Niger Delta people, we've been very unfairly treated. But politically, we are saying that let the southeast have a taste of the presidency of Nigeria, at least this time around.
Very interesting.
I was going to add that our position is purely based on the need for equity and fairness and treating every part of Nigeria, giving a sense of belonging to every part of Nigeria.
All right. So some of the political parties, especially the two leading parties, have had discussions around zoning. For instance, the People's Democratic Party set up a zoning committee led by the governor of Benue State, Samuel Otom. You've had discussions over zoning in the All Progressives Congress. What we've been hearing before now is zoning between the north and the south. We've not had the parties talk specifically about the southeast. It's always between the north and the south. Shouldn't we keep it at that, at least for now, even if zoning is not officially in the Nigerian constitution? But if it's an understanding, should we not talk about a wholesale north versus a wholesale south? Mr. Robinson, are you there, please? Ken Robinson, can you hear me, sir? Okay, so, Mr. Robinson, please unmute so that we can hear you. The audio is not coming through to us, so please kindly unmute. But for those who are watching, we're still looking at... Mr. Robinson, are you there, please?
Yes, I'm with you. Sorry, I had an interruption. I'm using my cellular phone and then a call came in.
Sorry, but it's okay. So, what do you say about the fact that it's been so far a conversation about the north versus the south, as far as the aspirants and the political party meetings and the rhetoric has been?
We are a country, and that's what we are, and we think that things should be done rightly. And our position, I was saying, is based on the need to promote fairness, equity, and giving a sense of belonging to every part of Nigeria. We of the Niger Delta, we have been very unfairly treated, but this time around we are saying, let us give a chance to the Southeast. Let us give a chance to the Igbos. And let us see what difference they can bring to the table. Nigeria, as we speak today, some have said the country is broken. Some have said the country is directionless. We have no direction. But we are a country, and everyone needs to play his part to reposition this country and make us truly become the great country that we are. And so let the Igbos have the opportunity to be president of Nigeria. That's what we're saying. And our brothers and sisters in the northern part of the country have enjoyed that privilege a lot of the period of our 62 years, whether either under the military or democratic rule or civil rule. And in this present democratic dispensation, President Muhammadu Buhari will be concluding his statutory 8 years in 2023, May 29. And so we are saying let Nigerians, for once, put down all other sentiments and promote fairness, equity, and justice.
All right. We've heard from the leader of this Afenifere group in recent times. Are you surprised about the position of this very, very prominent leader of the southeast or southwestern part of Nigeria, a prominent Yoruba leader, Paayo Adebanjo, regarding the zoning of the president, especially at a time when it seems some of the leading contenders like Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the incumbent vice president Yemi Osinbajo are from the southwest? It's surprising to some.
No, for some of us who have the privilege of working closely with Paayo Adebanjo in the last 4 years or so, we know who he is. He's a man of sterling character. He's a unique personality, and that's what is demonstrating the fact that he has raised himself, elevated himself above ethnic, parochial sentiments as it were. Looking at the fact that personalities in the persons of Bola Ahmed Tinubu and a sitting vice president running who are Yorubas, and he has taken this very, very commendable position. But that is what it should be, and that's what we expect some other persons in some other parts of the country, particularly northern and south, to come out categorically to say that. We recall very, very with gladness in 2006 leading to 2007 elections, when Obasanjo was concluding his 8 years as president. And there were moves in southern Nigeria by very some prominent and powerful persons in southern Nigeria to take over to succeed President Olusegun Obasanjo. Prominent people like Chief Edwin Clark at that time supported that the next president at that time should also come, there should be rotation, and the presidency should go back to northern Nigeria. And they supported the emergence of Yaradua. And so we expect eminent and prominent northerners and clerics in northern Nigeria to also speak out for the sake of unity, for the sake of cohesion and progress, and perhaps to douse some of the disaffections and tensions that we experience in the country across various parts of the country. Let us speak as a people, forget about where I come from first. It is doing the right thing at this time, at the right time.
Okay.
And so we commend the position taken by our father and leader, Paayo Adebanjo. And of course, don't forget also the position of the Middle Belt Forum, led by Dr. Bitrus Kobu. And it's commendable that the Middle Belt Forum could take this position, not minding that they are actually also Northerners. Bitrus Kobu is from Borno State, just to let you know.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. This Greater Nigeria Conference initiative of an Igbo think tank called Nzuko Umuna, you all came together as groups from different parts of the country, and you said Southeast must produce the next president of Nigeria. Mr. Ken Robinson, as far as Pandev is concerned, when you say Southeast, which states in Nigeria are you referring to?
There are 6 geopolitical zones in the country, and Southeast is explicit. Where there are Igbos outside of the Southeast, that's not deniable. But what we're saying is Southeast, and it's left for the Igbos to decide whether their brothers and sisters in other states within southern Nigeria will also be part of what we are talking about.
Okay, so you're saying southeast, but you're also saying that there are Igbos outside of the southeast.
No, what I said is that southeast is explicit. There are 6 geopolitical zones in the country. And we're saying, let the presidency of Nigeria in 2023 come from the southeast. That's the position that was expressed very clearly. And just for the record, the purposes of the record, the Southern and Middle Belt Leaders Forum have since last year, I remember on the 30th of May last year, 2021, we had a meeting in Abuja here at the Sheraton Hotel, and our position was voiced at that time that power shift should go to Southern Nigeria. But what happened on Monday, this last Monday, was capping it to say, look, yes, we're saying power shift to Southern Nigeria, but specifically perhaps the Igbo should be given some preference.
All right. So I'm sure I would have asked what changed, but I'm sure all the things that you've already said will constitute the answer to that. So we have, and I've had, several conversations about this issue from a couple of years back with different personalities and leaders of, groups, including Ohaneze and Igbo, even factions of Ohaneze and Igbo. There is a school of thought that says you shouldn't say Southeast. You should say Ndigbo, that we have Ndigbo spread across different parts of the country, only divided or kept out of the Southeast because of the act of man by simply drawing the maps. So you have Igbo in Delta State. You're very well aware of that. I shouldn't bore you. We have Igbo in Cross River State. We have Igbo in Benue State. We have Igbo in Akwa Ibom State. We have Igbo in River State. Should these members of the Igbo tribe be denied the right to at least represent their kinsmen if they have the opportunity and experience and the know-how to be the next president of Nigeria?
Kofi, let me restate what I said earlier. And incidentally, I'm the acting coordinator of the Southern and Middle Belt Leaders Forum. That's the position our dear late brother Yinka Odumake used to play. And the leaders gave that responsibility to me in March this year. And I'm saying this, there are 6 geopolitical zones in the country: Northwest, Northeast, North Central, Southwest, South-South, and Southeast. For the purposes of fairness, the Southern and Middle Belt Leaders Forum is saying, let us consider the Southeast. That is our statement. We are not explaining it, and we are very clear, and we think that all Nigerians understand where the Southeast is and what constitutes the Southeast. Now, if the Igbos agree amongst themselves that they want to cede that position to any of their brothers and sisters or sisters outside of the Southeast, that's a decision the Igbos have to make. But for us as a people, as leaders of ethnic nationalities, and who are asking for fairness from the Nigerian state, we have also demonstrated fairness to our brothers in the Southeast. That's what we have done. And we hope that the rest of Nigeria will see what we're seeing and act as required.
All right. So Pandev, and indeed, the Southern and Middle Belt Leaders Forum is saying that if you're an Igbo from the South-South, you will not be supported. You should not be the president of Nigeria. So you're saying Rotimi Chibika Mechi, Minister of Transportation, and Ezewo Nyesom Wike, Governor of River State, should not contest for that position in the spirit of fairness. That's what you're saying as a group.
That's not what we're saying.
Okay.
What we have said is clear, and I repeat again for the third time. Let Nigeria give preference to the Southeast. The South-South, the Southwest, in Southern Nigeria have produced president. Now, as an individual from South-South, and Pandev specifically as an organization had made comments and releases to the effect that, look, there are sentiments in the South-South that former President Goodluck Jonathan did not complete his statutory 8 years. And so we could not, at some point, underplay or undermine or ignore those sentiments. Those sentiments are real, that Goodluck Jonathan spent 5 years in office, and the second term bid was truncated, and he lost the election, a conceded defeat to President Muhammadu Buhari. So those sentiments are there, but for the purposes of equity, fairness, and justice, of the 6 geopolitical zones in the country, is the southeast rather, that has not produced a president in this particular dispensation and in dispensations before.
All right.
The Northwest had Prime Minister Tafa Balewa. The Northeast has produced a lot of presidents, Shehu Shagari, Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, and of course presently Buhari. And the Southwest had Chief Olusegun Obasanjo. The South had 5 years of President Goodluck Jonathan. As ethnic nationalities that project and protect the interests of their people and clamor for justice, equity, and fairness, we are demonstrating what we are asking for.
Okay, Mr. Robinson, we have to go. I'm very glad that you answered the last question, which was to be on Dr. Goodluck Jonathan. You as a Niger Delta leaders, even Chief Edwin Clark is saying that Jonathan should forget about the presidency for now. I want to thank you for your time, Mr. Robinson. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
All right. Ken Robinson is the National Publicity Secretary of the Pan-Niger Delta Forum and, of course, the Southern and Middle Belt Leaders Forum as well. And he's just given us a position in no uncertain terms. It's still Plus Politics. Thanks for staying with us. We'll now take a short break. When we return, INEC warns electoral offenders to have a rethink during the 2023 general elections. Festus Okoye joins us in a jiffy. Welcome back. The Independent National Electoral Commission in Abuja on Tuesday called on electoral offenders to have a rethink during the 2023 general elections because their days were already numbered. The commission also expressed optimism that the spate of electoral offenses, irregularities, and violence would be brought to a halt after the enactment of the bill on the establishment of Electoral Offences Tribunal. I'm glad to see we have joining us INEC's National Commissioner and Chairman, Information and Voter Education Committee, Festus Okoye Esquire. Mr. Okoye, thank you very much for joining us tonight. What prompted INEC to make such a statement?
Well, the Commission has been canvassing for the establishment of an Electoral Offences Commission and Tribunal to handle the issue of arrest, investigation, and prosecution of electoral offenders. And now, if you look at Section 145 and 144 of the Electoral Act 2022, you will see that the Independent National Electoral Commission has been given the power and the mandate to prosecute electoral offenders. And the Commission prosecutes electoral offenders, one, based on report by its officers, two, based on reports and the recommendations by the Nigerian Police Force, and also based on recommendations by election tribunals and courts of law when an election petition is being tried and the judges discover that an offense has been committed. It can be referred to the Independent National Electoral Commission for prosecution. But looking at the whole matter holistically, some of the electoral offenders are staff of the commission. And I think it will be impudent and improper for the commission to also be saddled with the responsibility and task of prosecuting its own officers. That is not proper, and that is against all the known laws of natural justice. So we felt that both at the financial level, at the level of capacity, and also at the level of prosecuting electoral offenders properly, that an independent commission should be established to deal with the issue of arrest, investigation, and prosecution of electoral offenders in a much more comprehensive and strategic manner.
Mr. Koyi, you're a lawyer, so very, very qualified in the best position to give us an explanation regarding this. So with the enactment of this law, of this bill, establishing an electoral offences tribunal, now, how will this be different from what we've been having in the past?
Well, I was a member of the Electoral Reform Committee headed by the Honorable Justice Uwais, former Chief Justice of Nigeria. And in that particular Electoral Offences Commission, Professor Jega, who later became the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, was a member. The Catholic Bishop of Sokoto Diocese, Bishop Matthew Hassan Kuka, was a member of that particular commission and electoral committee. And there were also other eminent Nigerians who were members of that committee. We did recommend for the establishment of this particular commission, and we also provided a framework for its establishment. I was also a member of the 2014 National Conference, and the Committee on Political Parties and Electoral Matters, jointly headed by the former Senate President and two former Senate Presidents, Senator Iyochia Ayo and Ken Namani, also recommended that we should have a Political Parties and Electoral Offences Commission and Tribunal to deal with some of these issues. So what we are saying is that we need a commission modeled after the ICPC or modeled after the EFCC to be completely independent and check the burgeoning act of electoral impunity in the country. And we recommended the framework for the appointment of such members of that committee. We recommended the membership of that particular committee, and also we recommended on the ways and means through which each shall function. Unfortunately, our report was not acted upon, but the bill that has gone to the Senate, National Assembly, which the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria has passed, has addressed substantially some of the issues. So we have made it very clear as a commission that, one, we want to concentrate on organizing, undertaking, and supervising election, that a separate agency should be saddled with the issue of electoral offenses and electoral offenders. And you realize that during election, there are some electoral offenses that are committed on the spot. So we need a commission that has the capacity to activate a mobile court to deal with electoral offenses that are committed on election day. Because on election day, what we find out is that some of the police officers and some of the security officers that carry out this arrest come from different states of the Federation. And after the election, they move back to their states. So when an electoral offense is committed, it now becomes very, very difficult to get them back to the state where they serve for them to give evidence. We lose exhibits, we lose critical evidence, and also we lose all the ingredients necessary to secure a prosecution. So we need a separate agency to deal with this issue.
Okay. I know that in the past, INEC and you in particular, you've lamented how INEC is overwhelmed at times with the volume of litigation and volume of cases that the Commission has to deal with. And sometimes we wonder how the Commission, and indeed the federal government, is able to spend amounts of money in handling these cases. So you're saying that it is not just enough to enact or to pass this bill on the establishment of electoral offences tribunal. You're saying that an agency must be also set up as a vehicle to be able to implement the law, is what you're saying, and not INEC doing this because you have your hands full, is what you're saying, sir.
Exactly, that is the point. Now, if you look at the configuration of the commission, if you look at the things the commission does, we deal with what I call pre-election litigation. These are matters that arise on a civil matter before the conduct of elections. After elections, we also deal with post-election litigation. These are matters that go before the various election tribunals. Our legal officers are involved in some of these things, and when we cannot cope, we assign some of them to external solicitors to handle. Now, there's also the issue of electoral offenses. So what we are saying is, yes, under Section 144 and Section 145 of the Electoral Act 2022, we've been given the power to prosecute electoral offenders, but set up a completely different agency. That agency will recruit the requisite staff with the requisite expertise to deal with the issue of electoral offenders. That commission will also be saddled with the issue of investigation, with the issue of research. They will also be saddled with the task of prosecuting electoral offenders, and that this is the only way we can break the cycle of electoral impunity in the country. And if this is done, I believe that some of those who believe that they can commit electoral offenses with some level of impunity and nothing will be done, we have a rethink.
But INEC has a legal department, Mr. Festus Okoye. You have a litigation and a prosecution department that should be able to handle things like this. Do we need to set up another agency in an era where we have scarce resources as far as government is concerned? And, people have said we need to prune down the size of government.
Now, it is this issue of pruning down that led the 2014 National Conference into saying, okay, rather than saddle this agency with the task of only prosecuting electoral offenders, let us add an additional responsibility to them in terms of registration and regulation of political parties, so that they will have something doing all year long. Now, one thing you must realize is that our elections in Nigeria have been completely deregulated. They have been completely staggered. During the 2023 general election, we are only going to have governorship election in 28 states of the Federation. In the rest of the states, we are going to have a election at different times. As you are aware, in June this year, we are going to have the governorship election. In July, we are going to have the Osun governorship election. So our elections have been staggered. So this particular Electoral Offences Commission, we have something doing all year round. We have a litigation and prosecution department. This litigation and prosecution department also handle pre-election matters. And I want to tell you that even before the commencement of party primaries, we have over 200 matters already in court being handled by most of our legal officers in our legal department. And then the moment you are done with party primaries, the cases will become higher. They have to be saddled with it. And then as we move towards the election and the election petition tribunals will begin to sit, and people will begin to file matters. These same people in the litigation and prosecution department will be the ones that will handle some of these matters. So what we are saying is, why not allow us to specialize? Why not allow us to take the quantum of cases we can handle, take the issue of prosecution of electoral offenders and give to a different agency, a different commission to handle? Because some of the electoral offenders are definitely going to be our staff. So why do you expect us to prosecute members of the public, prosecute political party agents who engage in electoral malfeasance, and also prosecute our own staff who are also engaged in electoral malpractices? So give it to a different agency. Yes, I acknowledge the fact that we have scarce resources in the country, but this agency is also very, very key because it will help in sanitizing our electoral process and also send a very strong signal and a very strong message to those who commit electoral offenses and get away with it, that electoral impunity does not pay, and that we must find ways and means of breaking the cycle of electoral impunity in the country.
All right. For now, this commission has not been set up. It is an idea that has been, put forward by INEC and by stakeholders. Will this be implemented with the 2023 general elections? If yes, do you foresee this bringing down the level of electoral offences in the country?
Well, as a commission, we plan well. As a commission, we strategically engage some of the issues that we have been saddled with. So if we do not have an Electoral Offences Commission and Tribunal before the conduct of the 2023 election, our legal and prosecution, litigation and prosecution department, we still handle issues around electoral offences. And as of today, we are firming up guidelines and procedures for the prosecution of electoral offenders and how electoral offences and their prosecution should be initiated within the level of the commission and who will have responsibility for handling some of these matters. And so we are taking it on board. As far as we are concerned, there's no Electoral Offences Commission Act in place. And since there's none in place, under Section 145 and Section 144 of the Electoral Act 2022, we'll be given that particular responsibility, and we are going to proceed with that particular responsibility. But as you know, when the different agencies involved in arrest, a different agency is involved in investigation, the only thing we get at the end of the day will be a report, for instance, from the police relating to the arrest they have made, relating to the investigations they have made, and then we now go to court to prosecute. Sometimes getting witnesses and getting evidence becomes a problem. So you hear matters being struck out from the struck out on the basis of lack of diligent prosecution, or on the basis of the fact that we can't get the requisite evidence that will lead to successful prosecution. So we want a situation where somebody will be arrested, properly, comprehensively, and adequately investigated, and also prosecuted very professionally and with some level of expertise.
Yes, but Mr. Koye, whilst that is not done, and of course you've rightly said the commission is not folding its hands, and you've already been proactive, but do you foresee the level of electoral malpractices based on the enactment of this bill going down?
If this bill is enacted and politicians, political talks, the sponsors of political talkery, those engaged in electoral malfeasance, our staff who may like to connive or collude with politicians, we have a rethink if we have this particular commission in place. But if we don't have this particular commission in place, they will still think that it is business as usual, and at the end of the day, they can get away with whatever they are doing on the basis of the fact that the commission will be saddled with the task of organizing, undertaking, and supervising elections, and will not pay adequate attention to the prosecution of electoral offenders. So I believe that if we have a commission, the level of electoral offenses being committed and the level of electoral offenders will go down. I think I have that feeling.
All right. Indeed, you are also sharing the same sentiments as the former INEC Commissioner Taiwo Jaga, who also has said some things about this, calling, I'm sure, from his own experience, for INEC to be allowed to focus on electoral matters, doing the research and organizing elections. Mr. Koye, before you go, has the Chief Executive of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, Brigadier General Buba Marwa, been interacting and cooperating with INEC, or has even written to INEC regarding this talk of conducting drug integrity tests on aspirants seeking to contest for political offices come 2023? I guess you may have heard about that news.
Well, we have what we call the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security, and it's made up of the heads of the different security agencies. We also have the heads of ICPC, EFCC, NYC, and the other security agencies involved. So there's a possibility that at the next meeting of the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security that will take place after the Salah break, that there's a possibility that such may be canvassed before the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security. But the NDLE and all these other agencies are separate agencies, and they have their mandate, and we will not interfere in relation to their mandate. But we are going to focus on our principal responsibility, which is to organize, undertake, and supervise elections.
All right. I would have wanted to ask what kinds of drugs you'd be testing for, but I wouldn't bore you with that. I'll leave that question for Buba Marwa. But if this were to work and an aspirant is found to test positive for banned substances, does this automatically mean that he or she is out of a race? Do our electoral laws have anything to cover that?
Well, you know that the qualification to contest election is governed by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended. It has set out the qualifying criteria for people to contest various levels of offices. And it has also set out the disqualifying criteria on which people can be disqualified from contesting elections. So we need to interrogate the provisions of the Constitution to see whether failing a drug test meets that constitutional criteria. But I know that lunatics, certified lunatics, are not supposed to be allowed to contest election. And there are also other disqualifying criteria provided in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. But in terms of failing a drug test, I don't know whether it's one of the qualifying criteria, disqualifying criteria.
All right. We look forward to that. I can guarantee you that a lot of Nigerians will be looking forward to that. Festus Okoye Esquire, thank you very much for your time. You've delivered ever so eloquently, and we appreciate you.
Thank you so much for this opportunity.
All right. And thank you for staying with us. That's as the size of a package right here on Plus Politics for today. We return tomorrow from our entire team, reaching you live from our studios in Victoria and Lagos. My name is Kofi Patel's. See you tomorrow. Good night.
Nigeria, by extension, Africa, is faced with a lot of challenges. The growing youth population with little engagement, that is a ticking time bomb. We are a blessed people with diverse culture and highly cerebral minds who have a lot to say. And yes, we are talking. It is important we drive the right conversation that informs, inspires, influences thoughts and action. If we say there's beauty in our diversity, then let us embrace our diverse culture. We must continue to courageously be the voice of transformation as we are the hope for the future. Yesterday's conversations shape today. What are you saying to shape your tomorrow? We know you have a lot to say, and we are here to hear you.
My name is Yemi Adenuga. Here is my good old days story. I was born in Ikperuremo in Ogun State of Nigeria, but I grew up in various places across Nigeria. I'll explain. My father was a senior police officer and he moved around a lot as a result of being transferred for and from work. You see, I come from a polygamous home. I have many sisters and brothers. My father had 7 wives and 27 children. I am number 16. We always joked that if we have parties, we don't need to invite anybody outside the family. We were plenty enough. I remember when we lived in Ibadan. As a little girl, I used to attend extra lessons with my sisters in the garage of my father's house, which was converted to a mini classroom for us. I remember my black slate on which I wrote with white chalk. For some reasons, I always thought that slate was bigger than me. Do our children know what a slate is now? I also remember when we lived in Akure, our house was right opposite a field that doubled as football field and training ground for police officers. I loved seeing the police officers in their clean white t-shirts, khaki shorts and trainers. Their uniforms were so clean, sharp, enough to attract anyone to join the police. But sadly, these days, that is not the case. After my father retired from the police force, he went to work for Shell Petroleum, so we moved to Port Harcourt, the Garden City, where I attended primary and secondary schools. I remember there was morning and afternoon sessions in school then. I was in morning session and I loved that we closed early from school and I could still do other extracurricular activities like swimming, playing squash for the Shell Junior team and attending the Girls Guide Club. It's sad that most children today spend their time outside school supporting their parents and selling their goods and services when they should be able to engage in personal development activities. Children have a right to be children and to experience a childlike childhood. When my father retired, we moved to Ogun State and I completed my secondary education at Christ Apostolic Grammar School, Ikperuremo. I was senior girl of the school, and I have to say, during our set, we brought the school glory through the Literary and Debating Society. Oh, I loved debating. And thanks to a teacher of mine, Mr. Ogumbomei, who saw the talent in me, I learned public speaking and led my school to debates in many parts of Ogun State, where my team and I won many debates. Christmas was my favorite time of the year as a child. My father would buy 2 to 3 rams and my brothers would bring them to fight other rams in the neighborhood. I remember one Christmas, my father had to buy someone another ram as he came complaining that our ram killed his ram. That was the last time my father allowed my brothers take the rams to a fight. And I loved getting plenty of money from aunties and uncles who we took food to for Christmas. There were some aunties and uncles nobody wanted to go to. Nobody wanted to take food to them because they were very tight-fisted. As a child, I always looked forward to Yeye's visit. That's my maternal grandmother. This is because we would sit around her and she would tell us stories with moral lessons to be drawn from them. She would start by saying, "Hello," and my sisters and I would respond with, "Hello." Most of the things that formed my values in life today, I learned from my grandmother's stories. What has the society lost today? That spirit of unity, that good neighborliness, that hard work with no promise of easy life, that independence, that determination to thrive despite all odds. Can we bring back the glory of those old days? Can we plant into the subconscious minds of our children of a glorious past and a greater future that is assured? Yes, we can. Let's attempt to change the narrative. It is good to remember the good old days, but they must only serve as lessons that should define the bright future we all desire. I therefore join Sir Shemori Badijo in this collective drive towards a greater tomorrow. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to What Are You Saying? #Ways, where we talk about topics in the news as it affects us all. I am Usayome Sally, and today I'm joined by Alara Boyo. We're going solo.
Yeah.
Jennifer did not see her shadow.
Hey everybody.
But how are you, Alara?
I'm very well, thank you. I had the most overwhelming day today.
But you look amazing.
I do. See, guys. See, I don't want Nigerians to think I'm vain. I'm not vain. I just appreciate my beauty as much as every other person does. So when you say you look beautiful, thank you.
Yeah, you do actually. We're color theming today, right, black and white.
Right.
So I think I got the memo today. Yay. How are you?
I'm fine. I mean, today is really. I'm really excited about today's topic, and I cannot wait for us to dive down with. I can't wait for us to jump into the conversation with our guests today.
Yes, so it's a long pending conversation that I've always wanted to have, but I wanted to talk about it with an expert, so it's not just talking, because I think there's a lot of lesson that can be learned from the government, if we want to discuss, whatever transaction happened with the Chrisland school. So it's good for us to learn lessons learned and way forward, because we cannot say that there won't be future occurrence for these kind of things. So on that note, we're discussing the Chrisland school. We just want to analyze and review the Lagos State government's closure and then reopening of the school. And here's what we found as today's quote. It's a very, very controversial quote. It says, the government's solution to problem is usually as bad as the problem. I didn't say this. This is from Milton Freeman.
He's not a Nigerian.
He's not a Nigerian, but you see, he's not biased. It says the government's solution to the problem is as bad as the problem. How did this put it? All right, so the Lagos State government had shut down all branches of Chrisland School on April 18th over alleged sexual abuse, of one of its pupils. But state authorities announced the reopening of the school on Saturday following a review of the ongoing administrative investigation into that incident. So today, we want to be having a chat with, or we're going to be having a chat with Taiwo Akinlami on the Chrisland school as we review the Lagos State government closure and reopening of the school. That's a conversation for today. And we'll do that right after the break to see what we found in the news. You're still watching Ways. Now, National Administrative Professionals Day, also known as Secretaries Day or Admin Day, recognizes the professionals who keep an office running smoothly every day. Celebrate these professionals on the last Wednesday of the full week in April of each year. The day recognizes the work of secretaries, administrative assistants, receptionists, and other administrative support professionals central to any business. These professionals keep an office organized and efficient. The day is the life of an administrative professional is varied from moment to moment. While organizations is key to their success, their flexibility and ability to handle the unexpected make them valuable to any business. So some of their responsibilities include managing appointments, drafting letters and memos, booking business trips, coordinating appointments and planning
meetings. You know, of course, they take notes sometimes in the meeting, like the what's that word that they say when they are in the meeting? You do the taking the notes and all of that, whatever it is. But you know what? They are. Yeah, taking the minutes, yeah. You know, but they are very important.
Okay, I remember back in the day it was shorthand that
secretaries used to do. But you know the thing about secretaries, almost respect them.
As in,
you're fine. Let's not your government offices.
You know, I till today, I don't know how they're able to take minutes and they take it accurately. Like they don't miss any point.
It's a skill.
Remember, oh my goodness,
it's a skill.
That's an amazing skill.
It's a skill.
I wish I had it.
All right, so we're starting with you. What's your story?
All right, so today I'm actually talking about today's story basically is about Lagosians who are keke napep drivers. So the Lagos keke napep drivers protest alleged harassment by MC Oluomo. So apparently some tricycle riders on Tuesday staged a protest against the alleged incessant harassment and attack from armed thugs loyal to the chairman of Lagos State Park and Garage Committee, Musliu Akinsoya, aka MC Oluomo, in the command and marine area of the state. During the demonstration, the protesters were seen carrying placards inscribed with different messages that explained their grievances in the hands of MC Oluomo and his foot soldiers. The message includes MC Oluomo is killing us. No more Oluomo at Ifako Ijaye. We want Tawan, amongst others. The protesters were also heard jointly chanting, "We don't want Oluomo again." Apparently, the tricycle riders are basically protesting that they do not want MC Oluomo to be their chairman. But apparently, I don't think that's possible because he's actually the chairman of the Lagos State Park. So I mean, they have like they have to take it like.
You know, something funny happened with that thing. NURTW had some issues with him at the national level. Yeah. So he was suspended. Okay. Then all of a sudden the Lagos State government now creates this
their own Lagos
State, whatever. So you can't come and tell them that it's a national
That's what I'm saying, it's a Lagos State.
So it tells you that the man has some level of influence. So I hope they listen.
I do.
I just pray that they don't start to fight and kill people.
I just pray that it doesn't even become like a very, very disastrous
situation.
Yeah.
All right, so this story caught my attention. I don't know why I feel funny with the conversation, right? Okay. Let me just read what the headline says. It says federal government, according to the Punch newspaper, says federal government targets 21 million jobs from investment. It says the federal government is planning to generate 21 million full-time jobs through massive investment in social infrastructure and services. The Minister of State, Finance, Budget and National Planning, Prince Clem Agba, said on Monday. Now, according to him, the decision to generate 21 million jobs was one of the outcomes of the current National Development Plan, which sought to lift 35 million people out of poverty by 2025. He stated this at a workshop on harmonizing and finalizing of monitoring and evaluation framework for the implementation of the second national program of actions, which held in Abuja. So Agba said that this would set the stage for achieving the current regime's commitment to lifting 100 million Nigerians out of poverty in 10 years.
Why is this conversation happening now?
So thank you. So that's why I say that the thing just rubs me off wrongly, because sometimes when our government people are talking, do they really sit down to understand what it would take to actually take 35 million people out of poverty by 2025? This is just in 2 years' time.
Which is not.
So this is a country where we still see empowerment being keke napep and grinding machine, you know, and all of that. Petty trading and all of that. That is most of the empowerment that you see, or they give them this petty cash of 5,000 naira. Yeah. So how do you exactly? What is the plan? What's the blueprint to say you truly can achieve this in 2 years' time? To say, you know what, by 2025, 35 million Nigerians will be out of poverty. So do they just feel like, okay, because it's the election season, and we want to sound right, we want to sound like, you know, we're saying all the things that we think the people want to hear. Like, it's really tiring.
It is tiring. I feel like Nigerians have been insulted too much and for too long, and the fact that, you know, this is something that they've been doing, like, you know, from years to come. Whenever it's close to either a gubernatorial election or a presidential election, you're always seeing the federal government or the government actually coming to say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that.
Or commissioning things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you're coming now to tell the Nigerian youths that you've said that are lazy people, and then you, the government, that haven't even provided infrastructures and things that would even help them come out of that poverty. Now you're coming to tell us that in 2 years we should expect the better Nigeria, but you have to wait till 2021 to start telling us that. I mean, sorry, to 2022.
And you know the funny thing is that, so the regime's plan for taking 100 million Nigerians out of poverty by
25.
No, in 10 years, right?
Okay.
In 10 years. Taking what's it called, 100 million Nigerians out of poverty. Where is your data? Where are the parameters? What are you benchmarking?
What is even the projection?
What's the projection? What's the current state of the people that you want to say, okay, they want to be out of poverty come 10 years time? Even the 10 years now, when did it start to count? Was it counting when you joined? Because if it was counting when you joined office, it means 8 years is almost gone. Right? So where are your numbers, statistics, your report sheet?
Exactly.
To say this is where we started from, this is where we are.
I am very much interested in the projection, because it's more like you're saying in 10 years you're expecting 100 million.
You want 100 million? That's like half of the population of Nigerians.
Exactly. So I need to see between the first year, what are you expecting to achieve? The second year, what are you expecting to achieve? Till the 10th year, because you can't just tell us 100 million jobs and then...
No, because that's why they just like to sound...
Nigeria.
You know, see, I go to any place today. Today, I was in 2 places.
Yeah.
Randomly, I was at a market. I was parked in the car. My mom was trying to shop some things to cook a meal, right? I was sitting in the car. Next thing, somebody comes and says, they see you for church. They greet you when they park. And I said, sorry, excuse me, what church? And I said, hey, I be in a house on the rock. I be in a elevation church. I said, sorry, I don't go to those churches. And I said, oh. He said, no, okay, it's just that, sorry, ma, don't be offended. I knew where he was going. And ma, just maybe you can buy me 1 cup of rice. I'm hungry and whatever. Like, so after I left that one, I went to park where she wanted to use the ATM. I think she went to the bank or something. Somebody again just knocked. 2 people this time around. One woman that was well dressed, another boy, young boy that was looking a bit haggard. So the point I'm trying to drive at is, you don't even understand. Do you even understand the current poverty level?
Yeah.
These statistics that they are giving us that we read online sometimes, it is not even the reality.
Exactly.
A lot of people cannot afford. That's why any little thing right now that happens, right, it triggers, you know, all these kinds of looting, stealing, you know, it triggers it, because everybody seems to be, you know, at that point where
it's terrible.
It's either I steal or I die.
And then it's now becoming, like I mentioned yesterday, you know, the whole man inhumanity to man is not looking as if they don't even, like, so far as you're not my brother directly or you're not my sister directly, I
can kill you, I can do anything.
I can do anything. So now it's just like Nigerians that are seeing, I mean, we are all seeing these things that is happening. And the reason why this conversation keeps happening every day is because, I mean, a couple of people, individuals, brands, TV stations, radio stations, I mean, everybody is hammering it on Nigerians that, guys, 2023 is so important. It's so important that if we do not choose right, the next 8 years, not even 4 years, because we know Nigeria, we know how these things are. The next 8 years is going to be worse than this. I mean, imagine during the lockdown, I heard that some hoodlums actually came into some estates to harass people on the island.
Of course.
So I mean, this is really crazy, which means
course.
that in your own home,
we started donating things to feed the community so that they can calm their nerves. But so, I mean, we're just sitting on the keg of gunpowder. But we'll take a break now. I want to discuss Lagos State government. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Increase the reach of your events or business services. To advertise on Plus TV Africa, please call 0906 000 5719 or 0909 040 8408, or send an email to marketing@plustvafrica.com. Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
businesses in Africa can be very challenging. In Nigeria, it is particularly intimidating, and successful builders have learned how to navigate a hostile environment to unlock opportunities. But one major challenge businesses face is how to filter through the noise and identify where their ideal customers exist. Get insight and practical steps from industry players and captains of industries. Hear success stories to help you make informed decisions as you scale your business in Nigeria. Watch Business Insights at this time on PlusTvAfrica.
Hey, what's up, guys? You're welcome to another edition of Plus Event, and I remain your host, Ifeoluwa Oshukeye.
Your absence isn't an excuse anymore, as Plus Events is all you need, as we bring you the glitz, the glamour, and loads of fun.
Oh, definitely. Right, no question. He's a living legend.
Oh, God forbid, Holy Ghost fire, I know.
I just want to be blown away. I want to be wild. This is 11 years of doing it.
I'm surrounded by so much positivity.
No, it's okay.
Yo, what's up, my people? It's your boy Starboy Terry. You're watching
Plus Event on Plus TV.
Stay glued to Plus TV Africa every Saturday and Sunday, 4:30 p.m. West African time.
In raising our kids, parents should stop playing God.
The internet is actually using the people.
But when you are looking for money to help other people, then it becomes easy.
Don't rush into marriage. I always say this. You rush in, you rush out.
Family is the bedrock of every society and the essence of life.
On Today with John and Helen, we dig deep into family values in every sense of the word.
Join us every Saturday at 9:15 a.m. on Plus TV Africa, DSTV channel 408.
With you, we play a part in strengthening the values passed from generation to generation.
All right, thanks for staying with us. Now, a video surfaced online showing a 10-year-old female student of Chrisland School having sex with a male teenage schoolmate while on a school trip in Dubai. And this was really disturbing for most people, as it sparked up an outrage over various mainstream media, social media platforms, small groups, WhatsApp, all over the place, right? So the Lagos State government, in a bid to calm the tension, announced that all branches of Chrisland School be shut down. This, of course, generated fresh controversies and outrage, and that made the government reverse that decision after a few weeks. The reopening was announced in a press statement by the Lagos State Commissioner of Education, Mrs. Folashade Adefisayo. Now, what are your thoughts, right? What was the goal behind this action? Was this the right thing to do in the first place? And finally, what should have been the ideal thing the government should have done, right? Again, because we're trying to think of future occurrences, right? Now, please let us hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-8038-4663. So I'm going to bring in Taiwo Akinlami in a bit, but I just wanted to hear your thoughts, Alera, because I got so many calls, so many messages. People said, well, what do you think about this? I was now wondering that, hey, this government should not have, shut down the school, because first of all, it was just a wrong move and they acted in haste. And again, the sad part is that when I was speaking to a few people, they said people that are in close contact with the owners of Chrisland School said that the government never reached out to them.
So it was just
right?
news?
It was just based on the conversations around social media that announcement of the shutting down of the school. So there are so many things for me, and that was why it was important for me to have an expert discuss this. Okay. First of all, there was a case of it's not even an abuse, sex, underage sex, yes. Right? That was the case. So if that was the situation, two things: it didn't happen in the school or in the school premises.
Exactly.
It happened whilst they were abroad. Yes, she's a 10-year-old girl, and the boy is a teenager, but it did not happen within the four walls of the school. So that was one hand. There was something to be dealt with, that a 10-year-old girl was having that kind of sex. Yes. It was really, really erratic, right? So that was a case, you understand, on its own. That's one hand. Yeah. On the other hand is, this was supposed to be like something that happened within the school. No, sorry, under the purview, the guidance of the school, because the school was the one that carried all of them to Dubai for that trip. That was another hand. I mean, one thing else, another angle. Then there was the hotel, right? What happened to the supervision on each floor? Because I know a lot of hotels, they do a lot of monitoring and all of that. So how come there was nothing around, you know, monitoring the hallways when you know that children were lodging in that hotel? That's one hand. Yeah. Then again, the Lagos state government, in a bit to react to the situation that happened all over the news, they just wake up and say all schools, and they are not just shutting down the school where they attend. All the branches. Christian is not a school that is just in one place. I think they have in Lekki, they have in VGC. I think this happened in VGC. They have in I know of Okwebi. Or I didn't even know for Anthony. So they have a lot of branches, right? So how can you just say something that happened? This is, first of all, the students were from a particular branch, which is the VGC branch, if I understand it correctly. You then shut down the entire school. So, but now, they have reopened the school. Exactly. But we just want to review. If something, because you cannot prevent children from being children, especially where there are no real parenting happening. So the people that should have been held responsible. Thank you. So what should you think? What are your thoughts on this?
So I mean, I feel like what should have happened initially was not to shut down the whole branches, because it's not like the case of Sly that a student died in the school premises. Yes. This happened abroad, right? So what I feel should have happened was, maybe if at all the government wants to really, like, you know, do something disciplinary about it, they should discipline the school management, basically. Because first of all, the parents of these children trust you with the guidance, and then, you know, making sure that their children are safe. And then this is like overseas to a country that is not even Ghana, or that you guys went by road. So it means that anything can actually happen. And I mean, from experience, based on, I mean, my own time in secondary school, when you even see like people that you know would go for holidays or excursions and all that, there is always a either the teacher or maybe somebody like an adult supervising. And then the funny thing now is, they don't even allow these children to they shouldn't have even allowed these children to sleep alone, in the sense that, yeah, okay, maybe because I think part of the things people talked about on the video was that there were 3 boys and she was the only female. And one of the boys was saying, I want to sleep, people are disturbing me. So which means that that room basically probably was for only the boys, and then she came into the room. So now the thing now is, these children that are in that room, what happens if somebody other than the girl, maybe somebody else comes into the room to attack them or something happens? So is it that no adults was actually... That one is a conversation. Let us ask the expert, because yes. Me, I'm just going to focus tonight on Lagos State Government, because there are so many angles to this conversation. Really, yeah. But Akinlami is a social development lawyer, co-founder of Power Parenting Company, Parents' Right to Social Protection advocate, and publisher. Akinlami is arguably Africa's foremost child protection thinker and practitioner. His unique philosophy and techniques and teachings on family strengthening child protection and related matters have been well received in over 133 countries. Akinlami is also a prolific writer, poet, and blogger, and he's joined us live from the US of A. Thank you so much, Akinlami, for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm struggling to hear you, but I think I heard a part of the conversation that you were having before you brought me in. I'm available to answer your questions.
Okay, so I just want us to review this conversation. So let's just start from the basic, the topic. We're sorry that we're having a bit of sound issue, but if you can hear me right, we want to discuss why, I mean, the Lagos State government's role in all of this Chrisland school matter, right? There was a shutdown and there was a reopening. What do you think should have been the best thing that the government should have done? There was a case of underage sex. So what should have been the government's role? Was it right for them to have even shut down the school in the first place?
Well, let me start by saying that there's a culture that is becoming very, very rampant and it's a destructive culture, cancel culture. We try people on the pages of newspaper, we try people on the platform of social media. These things ought not to be so, because you see, we will not always have enough facts to take final comments, to make final comments on certain issues when they occur. That is why there has to be investigative platforms that are open to the members of the public. And because they're open to the members of public are able to take a cue from what these institutions are saying. For example, in Lagos State, there's Ministry of Education, there's Ministry of Youth and Social Development, there's Ministry of, there's Domestic and Sexual Violence Response Agency. All of these agencies and line ministries are responsible for the well-being of children within the school system, because they also regulate schools in Lagos State. Now, when a matter happens, what is the role of these institutions? Their role is to swing in, investigate very fast, and let the members of the public know their findings. But we find out that is not always the case. In the case of Dowen, it was not the case. There was an outcry, then the school was shut down. Now, the school has been reopened. Now, if a school was shut down in public, how come it was reopened in secret? So you look at Chrisland Matter. Chrisland Matter, there was an allegation by a parent that her daughter was raped, and now it was in the public domain, and the Lagos State government was hearing like every other person, and the next thing that the Lagos State government did was to shut down the school by fiat. And when we see things like this, we begin to ask, have we left military government? Are we still in a military government? If there's a matter, if a matter comes to the fore and it is the domain of the public, the rule of natural justice, which is the rule that you can't judge a man without hearing from him or without hearing from her, the rule says that you must hear from the other party. You know, the first to plead his case seems just, and the other comes to examine him. So Chrisland leadership was reading about the closure of their school like every other person. You know, they were thrown into quandary, into confusion. What is going on? The Lagos State government have not found out whether the allegation was true, whether it was April Fool happening late in April, whether it was just a rumor. But on the basis of that trending news, a school was shut down. I think that is not right. But again, within 1 week, the Lagos State government reopened the school, and they now say that they are conducting investigation. Now, which will come first? Is it to shut down the school, reopen it to say you are conducting investigation, or to conduct investigation first? These are interesting times where we don't even know, what is happening anymore. So for me, if we have to look at the nitty-gritty of what happened there, our institutions cannot continue to run in fear. Our institutions must be confident that even where they go wrong, you don't throw away the child with bathwater. You want to find out what is wrong. You are interested in fixing it, not in crushing the institution involved.
This is interesting. So, you know what, because we don't have, usually we do not have a lot of time when we are talking. Oh, sugar, you're straining to hear me. So that's why I'm trying to reduce my... Okay, so Taiwo Akilami, can you hear me, right? If we were to break down step-by-step move that the government should have taken, what should have been the first thing to do? Because again, we see these things always happening, especially with the Lagos State government, right? Things happen and they just act in haste. What should have been the ideal thing to do? If you were to consult for the government to say, this has happened, these are the steps that should be taken, systematically and legally, what should those steps have been?
Well, I can hardly hear you, but I want to believe that I can make further comments.
Yes, go ahead.
What I want to say is that, number one, as of today, a lot has been said. Christian school was reopened by a press release by the government, signed by the Commissioner of Education, We are glad that the Lagos State government retraced its step early. Now, this statement has now said that the matter is going to be investigated, and that those children involved they are going to get psychosocial support. These are critical ways to go. But now, where do we go from here? I think that's what we need to be interested in. It is not about things happen. We take fire brigade approach, then we walk back our steps, then we go to bed. That's why it is interesting that this conversation is being had after the school has been reopened. So where do we go from here? What are we supposed to do? How do we prevent this kind of things from occurring? Note that in all of this, our major interest is the child, are the children that are involved, who are in the midst of all of this. Now, as of today, some parents have gone online, they have exposed the identity of their children. The conversation has moved from what happened in Dubai to the lifestyle of a particular 10-year-old girl. That's what the conversation has become today. If you follow the trend, it was that a school took children to Dubai and something happened in Dubai. Now, as that was going on, there were some tapes, there was a particular tape that was circulating of children abusing themselves because children do not have sex. Any sexual contact between children, anybody below 18, is abuse because children cannot give consent to themselves. They were abusing themselves. That's what happened in that tape. Though I never saw the tape, I just heard what happened in the tape because I refused to see the tape, because seeing the tape is promoting child pornography. I won't see the tape. It's against the law. According to Cybercrime Act 2015, we are not supposed to view child pornography. You are not supposed to view it. You are not supposed to distribute it. You are not supposed to use it as a point of advocacy. Whatever advocacy you want to do that allows you to share child porn is an advocacy that puts the child in a worse place than it made the child. So I've never seen it, but I'm aware of what happened there. So now the conversation has moved from that bizarre incident to the identity of a 10-year-old girl who has been alleged to be unlikely, to have over 500 videos and all of that. And I think that is in itself is damaging. Is damaging to that child. At the end of the day, after the deed has been done, after people have blamed who they want to blame, this child, the destiny of this child, if care is not taken and the children involved is truncated, is affected for life. Because internet does not forget. Sure. It can be 10 years time, it can be 15 years time. That all that we have done now, we come to hunt that little innocent young girl. Because I call her innocent because whatever she has become today is a manifestation of the investment of particularly the parents in her life, is manifestation of investment of everybody around the child. So I don't hold children responsible in this kind of situation. If I'm having one-on-one conversation with them, there is a way I'm going to talk to them. But if I'm having this kind of conversation, the members of public need to know that we goofed, we produced that girl, our inaction produced her. Above all, a parent came to the fore against the admonition of UNICEF to come and share the identity of her child, to claim that her child was abused. If a child is abused, is the press the first place to come to? If a child is abused, the courts are there, the agencies of government are there, but the parent chose not to explore those measures that adequately protect the child. They decided to explore those measures that will, at the end of the day, do more harm to the child than good, and that is very sad.
Okay, so I want us to take a very quick break. When we come back from the break, we'll continue this conversation. Stay with us. All right, so if you just tuned in, we're having an amazing chat with our Kilabi, although you cannot hear us, we're having network issues. All right, so on the Chrisland school matter, and we're trying to review the Lagos State government's closure and reopening of the school. And the government role generally things like this. Now, let's hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-8038-4663. I'm really hoping, Taiwo, can you hear me? If you cannot hear me, let me probably chat the question to you. Because I have a question I would like to ask. Can you hear me? Because I would like to ask a question based on what you just said about the parents. So what should the Lagos State government, what should they do to the parents that decided to explore social media as a point to talk about the issue of the allegation? I suppose this protected, what's it called, platforms where they could have gone to go and report that issue. I don't know if you heard that question.
Okay, so I didn't hear you clearly, but I want to believe that you want me to respond to. I want to believe that you want me to respond to. So in the beginning, you made reference to the role of the school and what happened in Dubai.
Mm-hmm.
I hope you know that as of today, there's no official statement that has been released as to what happened in Dubai. Everything that we are hearing is conjecture. The side of, as a matter of fact, the school has issued a press release. In that press release, they made it clear that they had 76 children who joined them, and only 5 children, went out of line, went out of order. That is the statement the school has released. Now, there's a lot of speculations, a lot of things that are out there. Now, the only way what the school has said can be countered is the report of the Lagos State government on the issue. What did they find? That is the only way the school can be countered. And I think that I want to be patient. It is important that we understand that we cannot judge Chrisland as of today. And let me quickly say, what is happening in Chrisland is unfortunate. Why? You know why it is unfortunate? Because I happen to know the school. That's the truth. I happen to consult for them on their child protection matters. I happen to understand that I'm not aware of too many schools in Nigeria today who pay close attention to child protection the way they do. And please note, I am not here to hold forth for Chrisland. Are you getting it? Chrisland has been holding forth for itself. I'm not Chrisland publicist. My interest is how all of this pan out for the child. Whatever we do, whether Chrisland is short, whether Chrisland is reopened, whether the parents come to the media or they don't come to the media, the most important thing is at the end of the day, everything that we are doing, does it represent the best interest of the child? Whether tomorrow something happens, it may not be Chrisland, it may be another school. How does our action as the media, as the government, as the school continue to engender the confidence of the members of the public? Those are fundamental issues. If things like this happened in a sane society, how is it addressed? How do we do it? What do we need to do? What are the conditions for closing down? What are the conditions for reopening? All of these are conversations that are critical, and it is important for us to have. Unfortunately, those conversations are locked at the back burner of conversation in cases like this. We hardly have it.
Okay, so let's take some comments, Alero, because we're trying to have. Tawa Clem, if you can check your chat, if it's possible to probably read the comments, because
Yes. Okay, so I have a comment here. Hey, my sister at Ways, the government shouldn't have shut down the school at the first instance. The offense was not committed within Chrisland, that's within Chrisland school. It affected other innocent children studying in the school. I still maintain my chance that we should not allow underage kids using Android phones. Lately, the upbringing of that little girl by the parents did not speak well of the scenario, and I don't believe she is 10 years old from the video and her crazy pics on the internet. This is from Bobby Kennedy from Jalingo.
So you see, this is the thing that everybody keeps talking about.
Yeah, she doesn't look 10. She doesn't look like a 10-year-old child. I mean, I feel like we should even let everybody, like he said, let's take the conversation away from the act has happened. Whatever it is has happened, right? And I mean, like he said, we need to focus on how best are we going to handle this situation, mostly from the children's perspective.
Absolutely.
How do we even try as much as we can? Because I was even going to ask him that I mean, as a
You can ask me, I'm hearing you.
Oh, okay, fantastic. Go ahead.
Hallelujah.
Go ahead.
I would like to know, I mean, based on your expertise as a child protective advocate, what would you say is the best way right now? Everything has happened, right? We know the situation. I mean, her image is out there. People know about her, and the story is not a pleasing story. So I would like to know, as a professional in this case, what would be the first thing you would do to, I mean, handle this situation? If at all you were asked to represent this child, what would be the things you would do? The first thing, I mean, and the other processes that you actually, carry up to just ensure that this situation is actually being managed properly.
Okay, I think the first thing is for the parent to stop this conversation. I still read something that the father was saying, was it yesterday? He was still making some statements yesterday.
Yeah.
I think that he was making a statement yesterday. I forgot what the statement is.
Also, so if you can hear me, the conversation.
Yesterday.
Yeah.
And I think that the first thing we need to do is to stop this campaign. We need to stop it, because it is inimical to the interests of children. UNICEF, when we were dealing with traditional media, the media that is traceable, not the kind of guerrilla media that we're dealing with right now, where everybody is a media person. Once you have a phone and you have data, you are a media practitioner. You can do and undo. You can destroy people's life. You can kill and make alive. Once you have a phone and you have some followers and you have data, you are good to go as a media person. So all of this had made nonsense of people who go to school to study mass communication, had made nonsense of the expertise you display on your program, the research that you do. All this guerrilla media has made nonsense of it. And so that is why media practitioners, people like you who are astute people, should insist on best practice. And UNICEF, when it was traditional media, said, when a matter has to do with children and a child is abused, particularly if it has to do with child sexual abuse, we should conceal the identity of the child by all means necessary. We should. Now, if they were writing that, if UNICEF has that position, which is on their website, for protocol for reporting matters that have to do with children, when it was traditional media, what do you think UNICEF will be saying now? Sure. That matters that has to do with children must not be brought to the public's fair. When the child is abused, we must seek private ways to solve those problems, because we cannot control what happens when that news leaks.
Sure.
So the challenge is that we need to stop that campaign. Number two, there are no hopeless situations, only hopeless people. That's what Claire Booth said. So I believe that it is not over for the 10-year-old girl. What is happening is that we need to stop this campaign. We need to seek help for the child, psychosocial support, regular therapy for that child. For the purpose, two things need to happen to that. Two things. That child is dealing with the impact of what has happened to her by, being involved in sexual activities, which is an abuse of herself and everybody involved. Number two, the publicity. The fact that she's before the public domain now. Those are two major things that she's dealing with. And if we are not careful, those things are capable of destroying her for life, depending on what we do. So what do we need to do? We cannot overlook what has happened. We need to begin to look for help for these children, particularly for that girl. We need to look for psychosocial support. We need to look for, and that has to be continuous counseling. We need to take her away from the social media. That her account needs to be closed down. A person, you are not supposed to have a Likey account until you are 16 years old. How come a 10-year-old girl has a Likey account? Posting over 500 videos on those of our parents. We need to stop that. We need to stop that platform. We need to stop that, and we need to now begin to work with her in terms of inculcating positive value system. I believe that there's a change that is lurking around. If only we take advantage of that change, because this is the best time to help her, to work with her, to let her see the implication of what has happened. Those around her should apologize to her for failing her, for letting her down. One, for not not helping her to understand that all those things she was posting were inimical to her interest. 2, for coming out to begin to have this conversation without proper recourse to the impact of the conversation on her. Everybody in her life, particularly her parents, and those who took the news, they need to be dealt with.
Absolutely.
Lastly, the government.
I was coming.
The media.
Wait.
Guerrilla media, where everybody can publish anything, call himself or herself any name, no professional training, no nothing. You just come out, and because you have followers, you believe you are a media person. This is destroying our people. That is what happened in the Deeper Life case. In the Deeper Life case, that's how the woman came out and alleged that her child was sexually molested in a Deeper Life school in Akwa Ibom. The picture was everywhere. You know what happened at the end of the day? Some people said they wanted to make the child a brand ambassador of a truth. It became a means to defraud her mom and also perpetrate further evil. The mother came out again and did another video and said she has been defrauded on the basis of that. Look at that undue exposure. Some people took advantage of it to say they wanted to make the child a brand ambassador. From there, what did they do? It boomerang again. So those are the things that happen when we expose our children unduly. And this is something that we need to capture. The government knows how to ban Twitter, but the government does not know how to arise when it comes to what has to do with
that brings me to that question I had asked you. I don't know if you can hear me. When I said to you that what should the government have done, or what should they even do now, because the parents have already committed a crime.
Yeah.
Because they should have explored the channels for the protected channels, if at all there was an allegation of sexual molestation. But the mother was the first person to go on social media to say her daughter had been raped. So what is the legal measure that the government should do so that tomorrow, no parent will wake up tomorrow to expose the child unduly, right? What should the government, Lagos State government, be doing to parents like that just go out on social media and go and say all sorts of things and expose those children when we know that it is illegal? Oh, did you hear me? Oh, sugar.
Can you hear me?
Did you ask me a question?
Oh, Lord have mercy.
Can you hear me?
Can you switch on my talk back?
You asked me a follow-up question to what I said, right?
No. I think if they switch on my talk back, you can hear me. Okay, today is today. Can you hear me now? Tayo, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Okay, well.
It's raining, that's why.
Yeah. So I was going to say, if you can hear me, switch on the talk back, please. If you can hear me, I was saying that what should the government do to the parents that decided to explore social media? I suppose going to the right channels to report this alleged issue. So the parents are the ones exposing these children, always coming out on social media. So can we start to put some kinds of strict measures so that no parent will wake up tomorrow and expose a child unduly?
Well, the network is doing violence. Is doing violence to this conversation.
Okay, can you hear me?
You can hear me. I didn't hear you. I tried to, but I think I should make further comments in line of what the further comment I'm going to make is the fact that we are dealing with an unusual situation. Schools need to sit down and ask themselves some critical questions. Are you willing to lead the 21st century child? Parents need to sit down and ask themselves the critical question. Are you willing to lead a 21st century child? We need to come to a place where we agree that these children are ahead of us. Far ahead of us. Far ahead of us. And if for whatever reason we are going to lead them, we need to descend from the Mount Olympus of saying, I'm a parent. No, you need to now enter the school of the children and learn from them. Hear them. What are their cries? What are the issues they are dealing with? Why are they behaving the way they are behaving? What are the things they are dealing with? You cannot know because you were not socialized digitally. You were socialized analog. Analog is slow. If analog was good, we wouldn't have needed digital. Digital makes things faster. Analog was slow. So we analog minds as parents, we are trying to teach digital minds, and we are not humble enough to sit down and ask the question, to say, digital mind, how is your mind working? As of today, the concept of discipline needs to change. The concept of relationship with children needs to change. If socialization is anything to go about, we must understand that the children we are dealing with today are ahead of us. They are digital native. We are digital aliens. And it is important that we understand that and we humble ourselves and begin to learn from our children so that what we learn from them, we can help them.
Thank you so
okay,
much.
I think, thank you so much.
Thank you. I mean, amidst the struggle to hear ourselves, I mean, his points were so valid. Because, I mean, this reminds me of what Norma was talking about.
I'm hearing you now.
Also, can you ask the question? I think he can hear you.
So, I basically was asking that what can the government do to ensure that parents do not use social media as a means to, so for instance, now the mother of this girl, the first thing she did was to go on social media to talk about the incident, to expose the incidents further, because if she didn't have that conversation on social media, it wouldn't have happened and probably wouldn't have been aggravated this way.
Unduly expose the child.
So now, what should the government do to ensure that there are no there are some measures taken in place to make sure that parents do not unduly expose their child to the media, mostly when it comes to situations like this that shouldn't actually be exposed to the media?
Okay, look, if let's assume without conceding that there was a rape case. Now, this was a case of children against children. Let's assume without conceding, because from the report we have read, no rape took place. No rape took place. It was children who were misguided and were abusing themselves. Now, the role that the caregivers have to play there is a role that needs to be investigated, looked into, and all of that, and we come with lessons that are critical for going forward. But you see, if it was a case of rape, assuming without conceding, it happened in the soil of another nation. What exactly is the government, what exactly are we investigating? Are we investigating the sexual abuse? Are we investigating the sharing of the video? If we are investigating sharing of the video, yes, we can investigate that under the Cybercrime Act 2015. So are we looking at the administrative role of the parent? Then are we looking at the need to protect the children, even if they were in conflict with the law? That's what happened in the Ebano case. You know, there was this case of a child that was allegedly accused of burning down Ebano. And she was allegedly caught on tape. And what did the media do? The media began to release the video of this girl, when in actual fact, the Child Rights Act made it abundantly clear that even where children are in conflict with the law, their identity must be shielded. Even when children are the victim, their identity must be shielded. Now there's a coroner inquiry going on in case of Sylvester Romani. The media has been barred from coming into that coroner inquiry. Why? Because children are giving evidence. They are being led in evidence. Because children are the ones giving evidence, their identity is supposed to be shielded. Which of that part does the person who granted that woman platform, it did not know and is not supposed to know? Now, which as that person who granted that woman that interview, as he or she been interrogated, has it been answered question that he or she has flouted the law by doing what he or she did, by bringing out that news? Now, because you see, the challenge is that if media houses were invited for questioning after the Ebano case, people will have learned. The problem is that we don't learn from our mistakes, because showing the picture of the Ebano girl who allegedly burned down Ebano was against the law, was contrary to the position of the law, particularly the position of the Child Rights Act, which is an extant law in Nigeria. Now, which is a law that is also existing in Lagos State, which is a law existing in many places when those pictures were shown. But the truth of the matter is that nobody is asked questions, because the government does not see the direct impact of this. If it is that somebody is making political statements, or somebody is saying something that they believe will affect the government, if it is the Reverend Father Kuka that is saying something, the federal government will respond sharp, because they can see how that affects their existence. But when it comes to our children, we look another way. We blame only the school. We don't sit down, and in this matter, the government has not done well. the media houses who kept publicizing that thing. Note, I never saw that video. I never shared it with one person. All of this girls matter that is going on, I have never reposted, tweeted, liked anything that has to do with it. As far as I'm concerned, it is the noise of the marketplace. I cannot be part of those who will spread it, because I know that every time I click my laptop, anytime I click the button of my phone and I'm commenting and I'm sending something, I know that I'm endangering the life of those children involved. I won't do it. All of my comment has been to come out and say that what is going on is wrong. It's not in the best interest of the children, and it must be stopped.
Okay, so we have a final comment quickly.
Yes, I was just going to say that, so one of our viewers just commented that the impression that the mother exposed her daughter is not true. The video was already trending on in the social media before the mother came to cry out. I mean, whatever the case may be.
The mother did not cry out for the video that was online, and this thing did not break. I followed the news intently. This news did not break, did not become a major news until the mother came out. What became news was not that those children were having sex or were sexually molesting themselves and it was videoed. This is not the first time we're going to see video of children trending like that, and it never became any issue. Now, so the main, and that does not make it right. That does not mean it is right. The main issue that happened here, even if people saw the girl, did they know her name? Was the name of the girl in the video that was supposed to be trending? Her name was not there. Who exposed the name of the child? It was when the mother came out that the mother mentioned the name of the child. And it was then that people began to dig into who this child is. You know the media now. You know the social media. You know the bloggers. They are trying to outdo themselves. You bring out this one, I bring out that one. There was a pastor that was accused of sexually abusing a woman. A woman came out to say that she was also sexually abused by that pastor, but she shielded her identity. Another blogger came out and revealed the identity that was shielded. Even if the mother has shielded the identity, there's a way the identity would have been brought out by bloggers, guerrilla journalism. So the point, we must not miss the point. Whether we like it or not, whether we argue from now to tomorrow, the children are the losers in this matter. They are the losers, except we do something.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
oh my goodness! And on that note, we've run out of time. But you know, even with the technical challenge that we had, I mean, you were able to give us a lot of pointers. We are hoping that the government is listening, because some people should be arrested. That's the bottom line.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Tawa Kinami. Now, before we go, thank you, Alero. We had a fantastic conversation. Do ensure you follow us on Instagram so that PlusTvAfrica interact with us further, drop a comment, and more importantly, follow all our engagements on social media, like, share, invite your families and friends to watch and follow the conversation. If you missed this, our interesting quote, here it is again. The government's solution to a problem is usually as bad as the problem. We'll see you guys live at 8 p.m. as we bring another great conversation. That shouldn't be though. All right, bye.
Bye.
Increase the reach of your events or business services. To advertise on Plus TV Africa, please call 0906 000 5719 or 0909 040 8408, or send an email to marketing@plustvafrica.com. Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
Hello, this is the Greater Lagos Vision and I'm your host, Love Ikuku Oyedoku. Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has announced a 100% funding increase for the state's employment trust fund. According to the governor, the increase is part of measures to help grow small businesses across the state through soft loans. The governor made this declaration at the second edition of the Lagos Employment Summit, co-convened by PlusTvAfrica and the Ministry of Economic Planning and Budget. Sanwo-Olu also noted that the state government had committed over 10 billion naira in grants in the past 3 years to strengthen the activities of PlusTvAfrica, supported 4,000 micro, small and medium enterprises, MSMEs. This is the Greater Lagos Vision. I'm your host, Love Ikuku Oyedoku. Welcome once again. This episode features transport sector reform. Sanwo-Olu kicks off e-hailing lag drive service with 1,000 sports utility vehicles for first phase. Building collapse. Lagos State government partners insurance firms set to pay compensations to victims. Waste management, sort your waste and get reduction in waste bill. As part of efforts to reduce frequent cases of collapsed building and liabilities associated with it, the Lagos State government is set to introduce a mandatory insurance digital solution platform for all property owners in line with the federal government's Insurance Act. There has been cases of collapsed buildings across Nigeria, and Lagos is not an exception. This results in loss of lives and billions of naira in investments. The 21-story building in Ikoyi, Lagos, which collapsed on November 2nd, 2021, was under construction before it caved in. The state government has now taken the bull by the horn to prevent such occurrence.
In the last 44 years, there have been over 480 building collapses to be precise. And this is the information that we have. This is the data that we have. Imagine so much more that we didn't even capture. And this just highlights and goes to strengthen the importance of insurance. Many a times when these incidents, dangerous occurrences have occurred, the government is almost like the last resort where we then need to pay compensation. What we're saying now is safety is everybody's responsibility.
To reduce the burdens and losses incurred by victims of collapsed buildings, the state government enters into a collaboration with insurance companies to ensure safety and, in the event of liabilities, pay compensations to the persons concerned.
We are taking the purchase of occupiers' liability to another level. We want to, first of all, sensitize everyone that this insurance is not about IGR. It's not about what comes to the insurance industry. It's about the safety of all. You know, sometimes we say, God forbid, it will not happen. But many times we have seen it happening. And when it happens, some financial responsibilities come with it.
Ilori adds that a digital solution platform will provide hitch-free and transparent activity. Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has reiterated his administration's commitment towards supporting innovative ideas and investment in technology to achieve global solutions. Governor Sanwo-Olu, who stated this at the opening ceremony of the Microsoft facility at Ikoyi, said it was inspiring to see efforts made by the company in putting up the smart building, despite the challenges posed by COVID-19 pandemic.
Well, it's incredible to see what, the imprint of Microsoft, here in Lagos and in Nigeria. I mean, given the level of investment, it's not only encouraging, it's actually very audacious. I must indeed see that it's going round. It's indeed a smart building, and you've put a lot of resource. I don't expect anything less with a global name like Microsoft. But it's really around how we now, like you said, develop local, skills and local talents, and local, people will understand what needs to be done to ensure that your investment are safe and secure. But more importantly, the kind of partnership that you require, to see it grow. As a government directly, we see ourselves working with Microsoft, even on the business side. But more importantly, in terms of infrastructure and developing the space, so that granularly people, and the citizens can utilize the full benefits of what resources have been put in here.
Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has sworn in 3 new permanent secretaries, bringing the total numbers to 50 in his public service in less than 3 years. The governor charged them to justify the confidence reposed on them by adding more value to the service.
Almost 70 to 75% of the current crops of permanent secretary were appointed in our administration. And that tells 2 things. One, the fact that we want to identify, continue to identify, and recognize the brightness of our whole lot in the service of Lagos State, and that's what we're doing. Secondly, is also to give people that are deserving this position. We know how enviable it is to rise up to the position of permanent secretary, but if you're deserving of it, we will not deny you or debar you of that.
As part of measures to ensure and guarantee the comfort and maximum safety of commuters, the Lagos State government has launched a new e-hailing taxi scheme. The scheme will complement the multimodal transport network being developed in Lagos in accordance with the strategic master plan of the state. That's according to the governor. A partnership agreement for a new e-hailing transport scheme was signed in 2021 by Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu and Chinese CIG Motors Company Limited. The result of that agreement is now manifest with the launch of the new e-hailing taxi scheme. It's known as Lagos Ride, with 1,000 sport utility vehicles for the first phase. The scheme is expected to compete with other e-hailing platforms. The driver or operator has a right to own the vehicle after payment is fully made within 3 to 4 years. Governor Sanwo-Olu said the initiative is to further ensure a seamless transportation system for the commuting populace in the state.
Under this arrangement, all beneficiaries will be provided with a brand new car, which over time will become the driver's property after the completion of the payment of the vehicles that have been heavily subsidized.
The governor described today as historic. He said it's a step to further drive the development of the transportation master plan to put Lagos on the plan of a safer, comfortable, modern and forward-looking taxi scheme.
We are starting and we're putting our money down to show to the private sector that we can do it and we all can do it collaboratively. These are no workers of Lagos State. These are Lagosians, these are Nigerians that will be taking over this. So our arms are open to other private sector investors to join us to ensure that we can increase this fleet to 3,000, to 5,000, to 10,000.
Commissioner for Transportation Frederick Oladende highlighted some of the safety features of the scheme.
The safety and security of lives and property are equally as paramount as the pleasure the drivers or the riders will enjoy on the Lagos Ride taxi schemes. Hence, the installation of security embedded dashboard camera in each car for real-time activities and monitoring, with panic buttons connected to the control command center that can be used by either parties inside the car in case of assault or emergency.
Plus TV News spoke with some of the beneficiaries.
It was something that we saw that will be of benefit to drivers, especially to alleviate the challenges and the burdens that drivers have in terms of owning their cars.
The Modern Ride Service is one of the state government's socio-economic intervention programs. The government promised to get it professionally managed in line with global best practices. Sort your waste and get reduction in waste bill. That's a message from the Managing Director, CEO of Lagos Waste Management Authority, LOMA, Mr. Ibrahim Odumboni, to Lagosians. Odumboni said residents who comply would get reduction in waste bills and increase for those who don't. He added that LOMA was engaging recycling as a veritable tool to tackle the challenge of plastic pollution, as the state generated about 13,000 metric tons of waste daily, with plastic materials constituting 17%. Joining me shortly is the Managing Director, CEO of Lagos Waste Management Authority, LOMA, Mr. Ibrahim Odumboni, for more insight into how LOMA is complementing the Governor Sanwo-Olu's themes, agenda, and a dream of a smart megacity. Thus, after this break, please stay with us.
In terms of waste management, there are various chains in the various steps in the value chain of waste management that we need to ensure that a lot of cares are taken about, from point of generation, sorting your waste from source, containerization, collection, disposal and treatment, and also maybe waste to energy and waste to wealth. We need to ensure that that chain all connects very well. And part of the way we want to connect is to encourage this operation from source, so that the end value will be there for everyone to see. Also, if you look at it, if we continue to sort our waste from source, we can tackle things like pollution, plastic pollution, and waste pollution in a couple of areas across the states. So if we look at Lagos as about 25 million plus people living in there, knowing fully well that each and every one of us will generate about 176 single bottle a year. And with that in mind, we have about 4 billion bottles generated annually. So if those 4 billion has been generated annually are not captured or taken back to produce new ones, does that really mean that over the next 10 years we're going to do 40 billion bottles? What about the previous 40 billion bottles that we have? So we can't continue that vein of that vein. We need to change the way we live. We need to modernize. We are an emerging economy in Lagos, and I know that we are a pace setter for other states in Nigeria. So talking to our people to ensure that they separate their entire waste from source is going to be a massive push towards achieving a smarter city and the team's agenda. So for us, we cannot continue to depend on the landfill structure where everything goes to the landfill. We should be able to extract all the usable resources from our waste before we consider landfill as an option. And I know that there will be a point from our plan over the next 10 years to ensure that we achieve a zero waste in Lagos as an emerging economy in Africa and as a pace setter for other states and other countries around us as well. And for our household, the reason why we initiated that from the 1st of April, all residential estates and companies or private organizations should start is because before we roll it out to everyone across the state, we believe those are organized environments where it's controllable and achievements are measurable as well. And we've also seen that a lot of these our communities, since the introduction of Waste Blue Box scheme, which gave back to Lagos Recycle, was initiated on the 5th of September 2019. We've seen a couple of estates start doing one form or the other of recycling. But now we're formalizing it. We're encouraging them to ensure that the waste are not commingled. We're also encouraging them to use a two-bin system where there's a general waste and there's a recyclable waste. And we want to ensure that all our recyclables are also used to generate jobs. A lot of jobs have been generated from recycling over the last 24 months. Over 6,000 jobs and counting. And we believe that there will be effects on our lagoons and shorelines and our drainages. There will be a time where you won't be able to see any single bottle in our drainages, in our canal, and water could flow easily. And all the marine habitats, we have the freedom to develop without having to be also accommodating plastics or floatables among them. Paying for waste management is sacrosanct. It's not free. Because the people that are running are the people that are going for you, catering for your domestic waste all across. LOMA, as an agency and Lagos State, we cater for the public spaces. and we regulate all the private private businesses or private residential properties that they service. But these businesses are there they are there as a business that we are building to grow. We don't want any of them to be a going concern. So if people are resisting to pay to them, it's basically you're denying them the opportunity to be able to transact. And I want to also state that we have a enforcement and monitoring team that ensure that when we have cases like that, our what do people call wole, our health officers are there to support the CDAs, the CDCs, to be able to tackle or mitigate against any of this cause and manage the situation when we have any tenement or any household that's having the issue of waste management. And in situations whereby it's gone beyond management, then we have a legal system that backs that. So the legislative arm of Lagos State also backs us with over 28 magistrate courts. There's no room for ignorance. There's no room for excuses. We've now gone all the way. We created Loma Academy to be able to educate people and create awareness. All our public primary schools in Lagos, through the support with SUBEB and Mr. Governor, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, we've been able to educate them on waste management. And they are going to be our ambassadors, our advocates for the parents that they are under, to be able to ensure that we try and change from bottom up, while we continue to use publicity, media outreach, like this conversation, to let our adults understand and also remind them of their responsibility. But all in all, there's no excuse for ignorance in waste management. We do a lot of things across stream, and it's always out there, and that's why we highlight it for all stakeholders or all interested parties to be able to understand where we are and where we stand at this point in time. We've been very innovative and we've been very proactive about the way we approach waste management in Lagos over the last 2 years by showcasing ourselves and ensuring that a lot of ways we're communicating to people with what we're doing. So we have our social media handles, our website, our app, and also we collaborate with other agencies to make sure that our message are passed across. There is no day that you will not hear about Loma, either in the news, or you see us, or with our PSPs, or with our sweepers that are on the road. But the key thing that I must stress out there is waste management goes beyond collection and dumping of waste. The only part of it that we need to all work on, which is me, you, and all our listeners out there, is the attitudinal change. You can deploy the entire trucks in the whole world to Lagos to manage waste. But if we don't change our attitude, if we don't start doing the right thing the first time, if we don't start doing what we know that is proper, if we don't start following what the law says, if we don't start looking after ourselves, if we don't start changing our attitude to what a cleaner environment is, we all know this. We all know the benefit of a tidy environment. We all know the benefit of what clean environment brings to in terms of health. We all know all these things. So, but why are we still doing the wrong thing? So that's why we continue to advocate. You see, Loma, we've started going across all the LCDA this year. We've been to 18 LCDAs out of the LCDA and LGA out of the 57, and we'll continue to ensure that all that is completed before the first week of June. And what do we do there? We go there, we sensitize them across the chain of waste management, from collection, generation, separation, containerization, recycling, treatment, and also the loads of achievements that we made. One of the major ones is you look at COVID-19. Without Loma, where do you think we'll be with COVID-19? Lagos as a very popular populated state. What do you think we'll be with COVID-19? With a small landmass, all surrounded by water, everybody conjugating as one. What impact? What role do you think Loma played? So for people out there, a lot of people out there understand that we played a vital role to support our governor, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, ensuring that COVID-19 was mitigate again the risk of COVID-19. We started reintegrating all our medical waste during the period of COVID-19 till date. So we take all the medical waste all across the states and ensure that they are all incinerated. We moved away from traditional treatment of medical waste. We also ensure that we have a dedicated team that are trained and specialists in this. And by doing so, we're able to reduce all the risk across. We've also used that to develop and automate our system in terms of management of waste. we've looked at the need for us to regionalize our operations. So we divide our operation into 5 different districts, and then we manage from there. So if you tell me now what's going on in Ekpe or Badagry, with a click of a finger, I can tell you exactly what's there because I have Loma operatives there. So we've done a lot across. We've reformed some of our legacy programs, like the sweeping program is all being reformed. Our engineering team is now functioning as a solely made in Nigeria engineering team. We make our bins ourselves, we design our trucks ourselves, we assemble our truck ourselves, we fix our truck ourselves, we're making things ourselves rather than buying and maintaining. So a lot of changes across. But for us, I think one of the reflections that we have in waste management is we have a lot of, Lagos has a very big advantage over every other state in Nigeria in terms of waste management, in terms of the fact that the human capital and the stakeholder around it are very knowledgeable and passionate about it. Starting from the governor, he understands it very well and he provides a lot of mentorship and leadership and coaching for us on waste management. So it's given. We have a governor that waste management is given to. Then I have a lot of management team or senior executive team in Loma, and even all the junior staff in here. We are all very scientific about everything we do. And sustainability is very key to us. So a lot of things I've known, a lot of things I've learned, a lot of things I'm learning. There's no end time to learning in waste management. And all these people that have been in this practical over the years are now having the benefit of having someone from the economic side of things, from the technical side, coming in to inject a lot of sustainability into what we're doing. So I really appreciate the opportunity this gives. But for Lagosians, it just basically demonstrates what the future holds for us. Waste management is never going to be the same. Every year, year in, year out, there will be changes that we are making for a better living for Lagos as a whole. I'm very confident that by the end of this year, we have an MOU in place for our first energy facility in Lagos. But I must state that in Lagos, the energy facility that we're going to have in Lagos, we'll try and find the best sustainable at a very affordable cost and also strategically placed for the state. We're also going to look at what fits. We are not going to use one size fits all, but we're going to choose the best proponent, the most active proponents, and the more realistic proponent to be able to deliver that to us. We've reached a time whereby 100% of what we have in waste can be put to use. And in putting that to use, it is very important that we understand what our future goals are. Our future goal for waste management is to have an energy plant in Lagos, which is our immediate goal in this year. And then to ensure that over the next 3 or 4 years, we start to help to solve some of the energy problems that we have in entirety across the state. And in 10 years' time, we should be able to have replicated what we've done across certain parts of Nigeria and look at movable energy. If you look at the team's agenda, one of the key agencies that was mentioned in the team's agenda, if you really digest it, is Loma. Loma was mentioned as an agency on the team's agenda when looking at the health and environment. And it shows the importance of what we do here to every part of the agenda. And I believe that with the structure the team's agenda creates and the interlink that Loma has with other agendas, we are on course to ensure that a successful delivery is given to all the ultimate goals of the agenda. And I can well assure you that we're given the opportunity to innovate, develop, evolve, be dynamic, and challenge the norm in Loma. And that's why we are here where we are now. On a daily basis, we challenge the norm. We go to look at status quo. What do we need to change there? What do we need to improve? If it's not broken, sometimes we leave it. But if it needs to be fixed, we go all out and find out the root cause and how can we make sure that the changes that we are making is sustainable. And I can tell you out there, part of the smart city agenda and the team's agenda is to ensure that we're not just doing it and it's just not coming from somebody's head or somebody's thought or somebody's ideology. We are now professionalizing what we're doing. So I'm happy to tell you that even all my management team and my junior management team will be proceeding on a sustainability and circular economic training for them to be certified as waste manager for the state. And what that does is it creates sustainability for Loma for the future. and also builds on from what our governor's agenda is in Lagos State.
That's all we have for you in this episode of the Greater Lagos Vision on Plus TV Africa. I'm Love Ikuku Oyedoku. Bye for now.
In raising our kids, parents should stop playing God.
The internet is actually using the people.
But when you are looking for money to help other people, then it becomes easy.
Don't rush into marriage. I always say this. You rush in, you rush out.
Family is the bedrock of every society and the essence of life.
On Today with John and Helen, we dig deep into family values in every sense of the word.
Join us every Saturday at 9:15 a.m. on PlusTvAfrica, DSTV channel 408.
With you, we play a part in strengthening the values passed from generation to generation.
There is no voting on social media. To vote, you would require a permanent voter's card. To get your PVC, visit cvr.inecnigeria.org. Create your account with a valid email address and start the registration process. An activation link will be sent to you. Click on the link and activate your account. Fill out the form, pick and submit a convenient date and time for your biometrics. Print the application slip, which should have your QR code. On the appointed date, go to the nearest INEC office for your biometric capturing. Thereafter, you will get a registration slip to pick your permanent voter's card when ready. Get your PVC today. This message is from Plus TV Africa.
On Plus TV News Now. Senate passes amended Terrorism Act, criminalizes payment of kidnap ransom. Burkina Faso, Guinea ask ECOWAS for more time to propose timetable for transition. Putin warns of lightning-fast Russian retaliation to any interference in Ukraine. Good evening. I am Maureen Menongwezigwe with the news now. President Muhammadu Buhari has sworn in 4 new federal permanent secretaries, which are Beatrice Ijedi Agbama, MNI, Kachalom Daju, Malam Shehu Ibrahim, and Mary Ogbe. The president administered the oath of office on the permanent secretary shortly before the commencement of the meeting of the Federal Executive Council at the Council Chamber of the State House, Abuja. Meanwhile, a mini silence was observed by the council in honor of former member of the council, Tony Graham Douglas, who passed on the 25th of April. In a related development, the Minister of Science and Technology, Ogbonnaya Onu, while briefing State House correspondents after the weekly meeting, announced the approval of the 2022 revised National Energy Policy by the Council. The policy takes into cognizance the vast available energy resources, including oil and gas, coal, and renewable energies, with a view to effectively utilizing them for overall national growth.
Nigeria is so blessed, and what we want to do is to make sure that we have a mix that will bring in all the various energy resources that Nigeria has for the benefit of our nation. We have to plan our economy around the energy resources available to Nigeria.
Also, the Minister of Power, Abubakar Aliyu, presented a memo for the variation of a subsisting contract for 132 direct recruit line from Katampe to the Moshood Abiola Stadium in Abuja. The minister further disclosed that the council approved 2 contracts for the procurement of 2 sets of power transformers and the construction of a transmission line in Kebbi State.
Offshore is 8.2 million euro. Then the onshore is 522.7 million naira. So the offshore remained the same. The offshore is now increased. The onshore is now increased to 724.6 million naira. Offshore.
Meanwhile, the Minister of Information, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, who spoke on behalf of the Minister of Mines and Steel, announced that the Council has approved the engagement of transaction advisors for consultancy services for the concession of Ajaokuta Steel Company Limited and the National Iron Ore Mining Complex in Itakwe in the sum of 853.266 million naira, inclusive of 7.5% VAT. Photos of abducted train passengers have been released by their abductors. The 3 sets of photos released by the terrorists were believed to have been released on Monday night. The chairman of the Abducted Passengers Forum had hinted at a news conference in Kaduna that the federal government was talking to the terrorists. Recall that the terrorists in the first video released after the train attack hinted that they were not after money, but an exchange of the abducted passengers with their commanders, who they alleged were under the custody of the federal government. The Public Relations Officer of the Department of State Services, the DSS, Dr. Peter Afunanya, has said that some criminal elements are planning to return the country to pre-2015 era with the use of improvised explosive device to attack worship and relaxation centers in the country. Afunanya, who said he had received reports of such cases in some areas, stated that he has uncovered plots by some suspected criminal gangs who were trying to form an alliance. The former director of the DSS, Dennis Amakre, also spoke on this.
Our citizens should understand one thing. Protection starts with you. Personal protection is number one. So it is not a matter of sitting down and waiting for the security agencies to come and do something. You call 911 or you call 211 and then they come. No. The protection of yourself starts with you. And the protection will, even where the agencies will come into play, will be when you have seen something or you hear something, you say something to the security agencies, and then they will help. So security agencies are not magicians, normally, and that's why these alerts are being given out. If you have places of relaxation, if you have a church, if you have a mosque, you should be able to start from now. It is not on the Salah day, right now, where you will start to protect those structures, those facilities. If you have a hotel, you start from now. And you should be on 24 hours alert. That's what the DSS is telling you right now.
The Senate has prohibited the payment of ransoms to kidnappers in its bid to complement the federal government's effort to tackle the disturbing spate of insecurity in the country. Payment of kidnap ransom was criminalized by the lawmakers during plenary in Abuja as they passed the Terrorism Prevention Act 2013 Amendment Bill 2022 following the receipt and consideration of a report by the Senate Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters on the bill. In his remark, the Senate President Ahmed Lawan congratulated his colleagues on the passage of the bill, which he said was very important. And joining us on the news at this time to talk about the newly passed bill is Executive Director, Rule of Law and Accountability Advocacy Center, Imo State, Oke Nwangoma. Thanks for joining us, Mr. Nwangoma.
Thank you for having me. Good evening.
Good evening to you. Now, the Senate says that the purpose for this bill is to discourage the rising spate of kidnapping and abduction for ransom cases in Nigeria. Do you see this being achieved?
Can you say it again?
The purpose for which this has been passed by the Senate is to discourage the rising spate of kidnapping and abduction for ransom cases in Nigeria. Do you see this being achieved?
Well, first of all, what we find, happening quite often is that when the National Assembly are reviewing laws or trying to make laws, they seem to do it without, the involvement of informed critical stakeholders. And security laws, bordering on security ought to be carefully, carefully looked at when they need to review. They also need to ensure that there is public hearing, that critical stakeholders who are informed are involved in this review. Now, when we are talking about criminalizing payment of ransom, I don't know how realistic this sounds to me, because what we want to hear is how much has government, put measures in place to ensure that kidnapping is curtailed, that these, terrorists who are kidnapping Nigerians every day do not continue to have a field day. Because when people continue to be kidnapped and government and security agencies don't seem to have the capacity to rescue those who have been kidnapped or to even stop kidnapping or reduce it to the barest minimum. And the family members of the victims are left with no option than to pay ransom to rescue their, kidnapped members. How would you then say that people should not pay ransom? Of course, under normal circumstances, we do not want to see people paying ransom. We want to see a situation where when citizens are kidnapped, the security agents are in a position to rescue them, and there will be no need to pay ransom. But when this does not happen, what options are family members? So I think that our legislators need to be realistic in the things they say and do, especially with regards to combating terrorism. If you are talking about terrorism, the Anti-Terrorist Act, there are aspects of it that needs to be looked into. For example, the definition of, of terrorism. Terrorism, as defined under the current act, gives unrestrained latitude and discretion to security operatives to define everything as terrorism. So you will see journalists who write critical stories arrested and charged with terrorism. You see people agitating for self-determination. They are labeled terrorists, and government is going like there's no judicial review. There's no accountability for security agencies who engage in excesses in the pretext of fighting terrorism.
Okay, well, the situation at hand now is that this bill has been passed, and that means that anyone who pays any terrorist, any kidnapper, stands the risk of being imprisoned. And we know that there are people who have been kidnapped. They are right now at the kidnappers' den. Which is the way forward for victims and families of victims as we speak?
So what this means is that government wants to, further victimize those who are already victims. Because those who are kidnapped are the primary victims. Their family members are the secondary victims. For taking steps in the absence of government ability to discharge its duties of securing people, to pay ransom to rescue their kidnapped members, they are going to be considered as having committed crime. I think that this needs to be reviewed again. This cannot be a law. It can't be a law.
How can it be reviewed? By whom?
I mean, that is the point about ensuring that they involve critical stakeholders who are informed in reviewing laws, because no sensible person will support this kind of review that says if you pay ransom, you have committed a crime. But government is not able to rescue people who have been kidnapped, and families have no option.
Well, you are the Executive Director, Rule of Law and Accountability Advocacy Center, Imo State, Oke Nwangoma. Sorry, I added your name to that. I just wanted to clarify your office. And I just think that we've gotten to the point in the country where we go beyond talking and saying it should be. How do we start this process?
No. I mean, what I'm saying is that in the days to come, I'm sure that those who know will also weigh in on this review. As far as I'm concerned, it's not realistic. If they say people should not pay ransom to rescued, there are family members who have been kidnapped. Is there assurance that security agencies will be able to rescue them when they are kidnapped? Is there assurance that the security agencies have been strengthened to be able to combat kidnapping and reduces to its minimum? Before they will say don't pay ransom, it means that they have put measures in place to ensure that once people are kidnapped, government security agencies are in a position to also rescue them.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Oke Nwangoma. You are the Executive Director, Rule of Law and Accountability Advocacy Center. Thank you so much for your time and insight.
Thank you.
The Chairman, Senate Committee on Capital Market, Senator Ibukunle Amosu, has notified the Nigerian Senate about his intention to contest the 2023 presidential race. The notification is contained in a letter addressed to the Senate and read by the President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, during plenary on Wednesday. Amosu said he will declare for the race on the 5th of May.
Letter from distinguished Senator Ibukunle Amosu, CON, FCA. Our dear Senate President, notification and invitation to the formal declaration to contest for the office of President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria under the All Progressives Congress, APC. I bring the greatest respect that I write to notify you and my distinguished colleagues of my intention to contest for the office of President of our dear country, the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and to respectfully invite you and my distinguished colleagues to the formal declaration ceremony.
Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo has held a meeting with critical stakeholders in Ogun State as part of his ongoing advocacy engagement towards the realization of his presidential ambition come 2023 general elections. Addressing the Remo traditional rulers, the Traditional Council and members of the All Progressive Congress in Remo, the Vice President considered himself as the best man for the job with track records of experience, patriotism and the fear of God. He also, behind closed doors, met with party officials and delegated members to the presidential primary expected to take place in Abuja next month.
With utmost humility, if we look around with utmost humility, and I say this with utmost humility, it is now evident that if there is anybody, any candidate or aspirant who on day one can hit the ground running, who on day one knows what to do, who will not spend another 2 years trying to decide what to do, that person is your son, Oluyemi.
Governor Dakpo Abiodun, who led other members of the State Executive Council, commended the purposeful leadership of the Vice President and expressed his total support for the VP's aspiration.
To be the Vice President of this country, but he said it was not yet time. Some of us can attest to your loyalty, your steadfastness, your sincerity, your humility, your character, your integrity. You are an illustrious son of not just Remaland, Ogun State, but of Nigeria.
The Akaribo and paramount ruler of Remo land gave his royal blessings and prayed for the success of his ambition.
Mr. Vice President, well, like I said, on I do that your days will be long, that you will continue to shine, that the good Lord will continue to smile upon you, and that at the end of the glory of this day, you will see that there is indeed there is light at the end of the tunnel.
The governorship candidate of the All Progressive Congress in Ekiti State for the June 18 election, Biodun Oyebanji, has promised to consolidate on the 6-point agenda of the present administration. Oyebanji, at the official presentation of his manifesto at the Adetiloye Hall in Ado-Ekiti, highlighted his focal objectives as job creation, human capital development, agriculture and rural development, infrastructure and industrialization, arts, culture, and tourism, as well as governance.
Practical and foundational training that can meet industry and business needs will deliver the skilled manpower required to support our people, especially our youth, as they create businesses and become self-employed or go into paid employment with existing businesses. We will also enhance the operation of the state polytechnic with a target to produce the work required by great businesses operating in the states.
Leading presidential candidate of the All Progressive Congress, Governor Yahaya Bello, has picked up his expression of interest and nomination forms to contest for the 2023 presidential election. Bello, who was the first to pay the 100 million naira required for the forms, was received by a mammoth crowd of party faithful and support groups from across the country. Addressing the mammoth crowd, Bello canvassed for the support of all in order to become the flag bearer of the party come 30th and 31st of May. And as the People's Democratic Party commences the screening of aspirants in the forthcoming general elections, the Governor of Benue State and senatorial contender for Benue Northwest, Dr. Samuel Ortom, has assured the people of success in the exercise. Governor Ortom, in an interview with journalists at the PDP Secretariat in Makurdi, said that the exercise is to go with the party's act of preparing candidates for election and the Nigerian Constitution.
The party's guidelines, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, especially the amended Electoral Act. So we've gone through all this, and those who are not qualified should know that they are not. But all the same, the party is open to accepting the screening of all aspirants who have done due process and due diligence. And so for me, I presented my documents and I've been screened, and I'm sure it will come out successful.
I don't run election before. Yes. So I fear nothing. Okay. But I'm sure I say this one on my own. You go tough like that. I know it don't go tough. When we enter ground, you go see what will happen.
Our correspondent Francis Dare reports that the party has so far screened members vying for the senatorial seat in the state. Adamawa State House of Assembly has just declared the seat of the member representing Michika constituency, Honorable Joseph Ayuba Kwada, vacant for defecting to the APC. Honorable Kwada had over the weekend in Michika decamped to the opposition APC from PDP and cited injustice as the reason behind his action. The Speaker of the House declared the seat of the member vacant following a motion to that effect by Honorable Kwankeno Machendo, which stated that the seat of any member who defected to another political party should be declared vacant by the Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, it is evidently clear that the member representing Michika, Honorable Joseph Kwada, last Saturday, the 23rd of this month, he has declared publicly to leave PDP to APC. For this reason, Mr. Speaker, he has violated Section 109, Sub 1, Sub G, and Sub 2 has given you that power, Mr. Speaker. Do you have evidence? Yes, sir.
The matter was raised in the Hello Chambers. No member asks any question because it's a constitutional matter, as it is widely written in the Constitution that any member will be declared his seat vacant if the party that sponsored him to the House of Assembly, he decided to decamp or do away with the party that sponsored him before the expiration of his tenure. He will be declared, the seat will be declared vacant. That is why when the matter was raised in the Hello Chamber, no member asked.
During local government expos, His Excellency and the party chairman said, unless you are here on the second term seat, or anti-party, if not so, everybody should remain on this position. Before I know, they have checked almost everybody from Minska and brought new people on board. Recently, he gave money to PDP members to purchase forms. I was excluded. He gave to 13 members. He refused to give me, which shows that I'm no longer important before them.
A federal high court in Abuja has fixed June the 2nd to hear the various applications in a suit seeking the extradition of the suspended Deputy Commissioner of Police, DCP Abba Kyari. Presiding Judge Inyang Eko adjourned the matter after Pius Akuta counsel to the Attorney General of the Federation asked the court for more time to enable parties respond to processes served on them. Akuta noted that he had filed a motion for an extension of time on April the 19th. Kyari's counsel Mahmoud Magaji did not object to the application. The leader of Deeper Life Bible Church, Williams Kumuyi, has said that Nigeria's economic growth, infrastructural development, and national security, which is in disarray, can experience a total turnaround if every citizen is ready to take up the challenge. Addressing journalists on his arrival to Ogun State for a 6-day revival, Kumuyi maintained that everyone must work together to get every ugly situation fixed. The octogenarian believes Nigeria will rise again and become a country that is viable in economy, security, governance, and social services, as well as justice.
This crusade is, yes, about prayer, but then it's about expectation, it's about hope, it's about possibilities, it's about what God can do and what we can do through the power of God from Christ, who provides everything for us. So, when we talk about complete dominion, everyone who comes, of course, will want to have dominion in everything that hinders him in his personal life. And for the country, we can join our hearts together. If two of us shall agree as touching anything we ask, he'll do it for us. When we come to God with that positive expectation, a lot can happen for the better in our country.
The entire world is gradually feeling the consequences of the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine, as well as the impact of the global COVID-19 pandemic. Therefore, religious leaders must continue to seek God's intervention. Well, this was a submission of the Lagos State Governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, while receiving the leadership of the Nigeria Baptist Convention, led by its president, Reverend Dr. Israel Akanji, who paid him a courtesy visit at Lagos House Marina. Sanwo-Olu appealed for continued religious tolerance, peace, unity, and safety in Lagos State, Nigeria, and the world, congratulated the Baptist leaders for their ongoing 109th convention, and promised to collaborate with stakeholders to see what could be done to resolve some of the issues presented to him by the leadership of the Nigerian Baptist Convention.
If anybody does not understand what peace is, let them test what you can see. What is happening in Ukraine, it's not something anybody wishes for. And whilst we're battling that, and we can begin to see the consequences of it, higher energy crisis, food supply chain, disruption in world logistics, and it's affecting everyone. We all can sit back, and say that, no, it's far from me. The global market is a single market now. Everything it's globalized, and when you see disruption in some parts, it affects some other.
Speaking earlier, Reverend Akaji commended Babajide Sanwo-Olu's administration for the harmony between Christians and Muslims in Lagos State, and urged people to be courageous and not be hopeless in Nigeria. He appealed to the governor to complete the process of returning the Lagos Baptist Secondary School Orile Agege to the church.
We wish to request of you to complete the process of returning the Lagos Baptist Secondary School Orile Agege to us. The process actually began when Governor Ahmed Tinubu released the schools to the missionary bodies, but through the subsequent governments, the process is yet to be completed, although it has gone very far.
Weeks after the tragic fire incident that occurred at Akpomgo Market, in which goods worth millions of naira were destroyed and a section of the Eko Bridge damaged, no serious work has begun, as the traders are concerned about the slow pace of repairs, which they say has caused low patronage. Our correspondent was there and now reports.
There is no evidence of work going on top of the bridge, as the traffic jam still persists. But skeletal works seem ongoing under the bridge, as some men were seen digging around the edge of the pillars. They claim that they have been working since last week Wednesday, and that they are from the Ministry of Works. Some of the traders affected by the inferno, who sometimes hang around to display their scanty wares, are no longer under the bridge, while those in their shops lament low sales.
For where? The market is not the same thing. Number one, when people cannot apply this place, easy access to get to us, it reduces people that comes to Lagos. You understand? Number two, this market is, one person cannot sell this cake line, this our line. You can't have everything. Those people that their shop got points, we work it's like interwoven. One person, about 20, 30 people is attached to that one person. We sell, they sell. If somebody comes here and I say, give me this, the ones who don't have, you call your neighbor, they will join together to sell. So it makes the market to go down. Especially the traffic is giving headache.
Business has not been the same since then because a lot of traffic on the way. So people now think about the traffic, it will make them not to come. But however, we've been trying our best, but really, it has not been the same. It takes a lot of time coming to this place. So it has affected the business.
The economy, so maybe economy is another thing. But the main thing then, because of this fire, everywhere scattered. People are not coming as they used to come. The patronage is low.
As you know, Okiari Market is a wholesale outlet. We have our customers cut across the country.
Nenna Uwakwe says the situation is worse because of Ramadan.
Ramadan affects my sales too. Even the Christian fasting, we just came out of it. It has never been the same. The economy too is not helping matters. Things are going up day after day.
As the repair work gradually begins, the traders are hopeful that the repair will be completed soon. Paul George, PlusTV News.
A national malaria elimination program report has revealed that about 10 persons reportedly die of malaria every 1 hour in Nigeria. While commemorating World Malaria Day, the Adamawa State Ministry of Health says 90,000 malaria-related deaths are recorded annually in Nigeria. The Commissioner of Health, Abdullahi Isa, represented by a permanent secretary, warned that malaria remains a major public health burden globally, with most cases reported in sub-Saharan Africa.
Malaria remains major public health burden globally, with most incidents reported in sub-Saharan Africa. Recently, the National Malaria Elimination Program revealed that over 90,000 malaria-related deaths are recorded in Nigeria every year. Nigeria accounts for about a quarter of global burden of malaria, with 9 to 10 persons dying of malaria or malaria-related causes every hour. The prevalence of malaria is declining as shown in national surveys from 27% in 2015 to 23% in 2018. For Adamawa is 21%.
As cases of domestic violence seem to be on the increase, Nigerians speak against the scourge. That's on Street Views. Take a listen.
Domestic violence is not something that it's not a good thing at all, and I won't even advise my worst enemy to go through such. I'll advise people in such situation to walk away as fast as possible in order to be able to save themselves from such experience.
Well, in a simple put, I can say when intolerance is already in place and injured emotion. So before it results into unwanted circumstances.
This thing is just that I don't know, people that are in that kind of situation, they find it so difficult to live. I don't know why. I don't know what is the reason why they can't leave domestic violence. They can't leave that kind of a marriage or something. I don't know why. But most of them find it so difficult to leave the marriage. The best thing is to just leave the marriage. If it is a relationship, thank God it's a relationship, then you just separate. But if it is a marriage, you have to just leave. Just give yourself a space.
It's something that if anybody's caught doing it, they should be punished severely.
It's part of things that I don't like. Well, people in such situation must act fast by as in speaking up. Speak up. Because for you not to speak up, it takes life. It's a bad thing, I would say.
I don't support domestic violence in any way, physical, verbally, emotionally at all. Whether it's to the man, whether it's to the woman, I don't support it. So I believe if it hasn't gotten physical yet, at least reevaluate your marriage. Make sure there is no form of abuse there. In that way, both of you can enjoy your marriage. But if it has gotten physical, I believe you should seek the aid of counselors who will settle it. And if there is no repentance, I recommend separation.
Still ahead, DR Congo starts vaccination against Ebola outbreak. Details when we return.
Life can be fun and rewarding, but it also comes with some risk. As in business, you win some, you lose some. And that's why you need to be wise in the choices you make. It's like placing a bet. Again, you need to be wise. Wise in choosing an innovative platform with the highest market options and highest odds ever. That's why Winners Golden Bet, the leader in online, in-shop, virtual, and live sports betting, gives you enhanced platforms that offer you the best chances of winning. For betting on live soccer matches, live dog races, and virtual games. Winners Golden Bet is your best bet. Instant payment of winnings guaranteed. Play online or in any of our numerous shops nearest to you.
Hey guys, be wise. Play on Winners Golden Bet.
Winners Golden Bet, the wise choice.
You're still watching News Now Plus TV Africa. Mali has accused the French army of spying and subversion when it used a drone to film what France alleged was mercenaries burying bodies near a military base. The West African nation's ruling junta in a statement said a drone illegally flew over the Gossi base on April the 20th, the day after French forces handed the site back to Mali. The following day, the French army shared a video it said showed Russian mercenaries covering bodies with sand to falsely accuse the departing troops of war crimes. 2 soldiers could be seen filming the half-buried corpses. Mali's military have now announced an inquiry into the discovery of a mass grave at the Gossi base. Burkina Faso and Guinea, where the military has seized power by force, have asked their West African neighbors for more time to come up with a timetable for the transition. A statement from the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, says that this comes after the expiration of the 25th of April ultimatum. The organization also stated that Guinea presented the recent developments in the transition process and also wished to have more time in order to allow for further consultations. Ethiopian rebels in the Tigray region have said that they have withdrawn from the areas where they had occupied for 9 months in neighboring Afar. This is one of the conditions set by the Ethiopian government for a truce announced in March. Both the Ethiopian federal government and the Afar regional authorities are yet to respond to this, but 2 TPLF spokesmen, Gatichu Reda and Kindeya Garewot, said that the rebel troops had completely evacuated Afar. Clashes involving students and police have been reported in the vicinity of the Alassane Ouattara University of Bouaké, where students have been on strike since Monday to demand better study conditions and, in particular, the possibility of taking their exams elsewhere than in Abidjan, the country's main city more than 300 kilometers away. Eyewitnesses said the police fired tear gas to disperse demonstrators who had gathered on the campus after stones were thrown at them. A police source who requested an empty said that there were 22 students arrested who were brought before the prosecutor's office and that only 1 was injured. The Rwanda Investigation Bureau has arrested the organizer of the Miss Rwanda beauty pageant, Diodon Ishimwe, for sexual assault allegations. The police confirmed in a statement that the famous former musician known as Prince Kid was arrested. RIB spokesman Thierry Moringira said that the 36-year-old is suspected of assaulting former Miss Rwanda contestants on several occasions, and that the case will be referred to the prosecutor's office in due course. The World Health Organization's Africa office in the Democratic Republic of Congo has launched a vaccination campaign after 2 people died of Ebola in the northwestern town of Mbandaka. It's the 14th outbreak of the killer virus in the country since 1976, including 6 since 2018. WHO's Regional Director for Africa, Moshidiso Moeti, said that with effective vaccines at hand and the experience of the Democratic Republic of the Congo's health workers on Ebola response, the course of the outbreak could be quickly changed for the better. The Central African Republic has adopted Bitcoin as legal tender, becoming the second country in the world to do so behind El Salvador. A statement made available by the President's Chief of Staff, Obed Namsio, said that the lawmakers unanimously adopted a bill that made Bitcoin legal tender alongside the CFA francs and legalized the use of cryptocurrencies, and that President Faustin Archange Touadéra signed the measure into law. Namsio also said that the CAR is the first country in Africa to adopt Bitcoin as legal tender. And Russian President Vladimir Putin has warned that any country attempting to interfere in Ukraine would face a lightning-fast response from Russia, and said all decisions on how Moscow would react in that situation had already been taken. Addressing lawmakers in St. Petersburg, Putin said the West wanted to cut Russia into different pieces and accused it of pushing Ukraine into conflict with Russia. Putin also told lawmakers the Russian ruble, banking system, transport sector and economy as a whole had withstood sanctions imposed against Moscow, and vowed a response to attempts to isolate Russia. Russian state TV channel RU24 has shown a footage of former U.S. Marine Trevor Reed being escorted to a plane as part of a prisoner swap between the U.S. and Russia. Reed was released in exchange for Russian pilot Konstantin Yeroshenko. U.S. officials said that the swap, as announced by both countries, was a result of months of work and did not involve negotiations on any other of the sensitive topics involving the United States and Russia. And European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has said that the era of Russian fossil fuel in Europe is coming to an end. Her comments come after the Russian energy giant Gazprom said it had cut off gas exports to Poland and Bulgaria. Speaking in Brussels, von der Leyen said the move showed Russia's unreliability as an energy supplier. Federal prosecutors have charged the owner of Archegos Capital Management, Bill Huang, with racketeering and fraud, as regulators said his manipulation of stock prices cost banks billions of dollars when his house cards collapsed. According to documents released and a news conference, the blow-up cost global banks including Credit Suisse, Nomura Holdings, Morgan Stanley, and Deutsche Bank more than $10 billion in losses. Prosecutors allege that Huang, who denies wrongdoing, manipulated the stock price of 7 of Archegos' portfolio companies, including Viacom, Discovery, and Tencent Music Entertainment, according to an indictment brought by the U.S. Attorney's Office in Manhattan.
As alleged in our complaint, starting in 2020 and continuing through March 2021, Wang and others propped up Archegos as a $36 billion house of cards. They did so by engaging in a constant cycle of manipulative trading, by lying to banks to obtain additional trading capacity, and then by using that additional capacity to engage in still more manipulative trading. But Wang's house of cards could only be sustained if that cycle of deceptive trading, of lies and buying power continued uninterrupted. And once Archegos' buying power was exhausted, stock prices fell, and the entire structure collapsed of its own weight, leaving, as we allege, Archegos' counterparties with nearly $10 billion in losses.
Akego's, a family office run by former Tiger Asia manager Huang, defaulted on margin calls in March of last year, leaving big-name banks nursing heavy losses and sparking a fire sale of shares, including Viacom, CBS, and Discovery Inc. Up next, trade between Indonesia and Nigeria volume rises to $2.46 billion in 2021. That's in business news after this short break.
And in business news, the telecommunication companies have lost about 75.78 billion naira as subscribers struggle to link the national identification number to the subscriber identity model. About 22 days after the federal government directed telecom companies to bar defaulting consumers from making outgoing calls. On April 4, the federal government directed telcos to restrict outgoing calls on all lines that had not linked their SIMs to NINs after the deadline for the verification exercise expired on March 31. As a result, about 72.77 million active telecom subscribers were barred from making calls on their SIMs. Voice revenue is a major source of revenue for telecom companies. And according to the Association of Telecommunication Companies of Nigeria, the industry average revenue per user was 1,420 naira in 2020. And this translates to about 1,041.33 per subscriber in 22 days. And trade volume between Indonesia and Nigeria has risen to $2.46 billion in 2021 as the Southeast Asian countries seek closer economic ties with Nigeria. And this was disclosed by Ambassador of Indonesia to Nigeria, Uzra Harahap, during a press briefing in Abuja on Tuesday. He said Indonesia's main economic focus is improving economic relations with Nigeria, citing efforts made to introduce, promote, and boost the bilateral economic relations of the two countries as 25 Indonesia companies now invest in Nigeria. And Vice President Yemi Osinbajo says the non-oil sector growth recorded recently indicates the country's growing resilience as well as decreasing susceptibility to shocks in the global oil market. Professor Osinbajo stated this in his keynote remarks at a two-day national conference on non-oil exports held in Abuja. According to him, some of the country's best success stories are in the technology sector, as 6 technology companies built in recent years have become unicorn companies valued at over $1 billion each. And climate change could see 4% of global annual economic output lost by 2050 and hit many poorer parts of the world disproportionately hard. A new study of 135 countries has estimated. And ratings firm S&P Global, which gives countries credit scores based on the health of their economies, published a report on Tuesday looking at the likely impact of rising sea levels and more regular heat waves, droughts and storms. In a baseline scenario where governments largely shy away from major new climate change policies, known as RCP 4.5 by scientists, lower and lower middle income countries are likely to see 3.6 times greater gross domestic product losses on average than richer ones. Bangladesh, India, Pakistan and Sri Lanka's exposure to wildfires, floods, major storms and also water shortages means South Asia has 10%, 18% of GDP at risk, roughly treble that of North America and 10 times more than the least affected region, Europe. And that's business news. Thanks for watching. I am Destiny Momo. The news continues.
The very best in entertainment is next.
Big Brother Nigeria reality TV star Kafilat Karim, aka Kafi, is undergoing a misconduct hearing because of her appearance on the show in 2019. According to reports, hours before going on the show, Kafi called one of the Metropolitan Mall senior officers, asking him to reverse an order for not to do so. Against the decision that she should not attend the show, she went ahead to take part of the reality TV show in Nigeria. Kafi argued that the show was an avenue to promote the Metropolitan Police globally. Addressing the tribunal on behalf of the Metropolitan Police, and Stord said concerns were raised having seen the UK episodes of the Big Brother show, adding that Kafi said the UK version of the show differed from the one organized in Nigeria. Under her eviction, Kafi spent 77 days in the BB Niger house, where she met her husband, Gedoni Ekbata. Wizkid has been announced as one of the stars headlining the 2022 Rolling Loud Music Festival. The festival, which usually takes place in the United States, will be held in Canada for the first time. The 3-day festival will also be headlined by American hip-hop stars Dave and Future, with Wizkid headlining the 3rd day of the festival. Dubbed the largest hip-hop festival in the world, Rolling Loud will be held from the 9th to the 11th of September. DJ Tim Westwood is facing multiple allegations of sexual misconduct by women who say he abused his position in the music industry to exploit them. The 64-year-old accused of predatory and unwanted sexual behavior and torture in incidents between 1992 and 2017. The BBC and The Guardian have held detailed accounts from 7 women in a joint investigation into the former DJ. The 7 women who spoke to the BBC are all black and say they met Westwood through his work. Some of them accused the DJ of abusing his power within the music industry. He strenuously denies the allegations.
Up next is sports news.
Hello and welcome to Sports News on PlusTvAfrica. Cricket World Cup winner Asanka Gurusina has resigned from his role as the Nigeria Cricket Federation's head coach and high performance manager, NCF, according to a letter sent to the Federation's board on March 31st, 2022. Asanka's resignation is due to health complications that will not allow him to perform his duties effectively. General Secretary of the Federation, Taiwo Oris, in a statement issued yesterday, commended the coach for transforming the game of cricket in Nigeria. Asanka was hired on December 1st, 2020, and in a short period of time, he made a significant impact on the game in Nigeria, most notably by bringing more discipline to players' approach to the game and establishing a coaching development template that was rolled out to Nigerian coaches. Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor will be the first women to headline a card at Madison Square Garden when they face each other on Saturday night. Eddie Hearn, the promoter of Taylor, has said that this bout will change the face of boxing and is the biggest women's fight in history. Serrano has urged people to tune in to the fight to change the perception of women's boxing in the general public. The bout is for the undisputed lightweight titles that are currently held by the Bray Bomber. It will be her 6th title defense of the belts.
This is history in the making. This is an iconic moment that will change the face of the sport forever. And I think this fight will inspire a whole new generation of female fighters and athletes. But beyond that, in order to sustain women's sport, in order to sustain women's boxing, it needs to stand alone on its own merits. And I think the greatest thing about this fight is, we all know it's the biggest female fight of all time, but it stands as one of the biggest fights in boxing today. The undisputed lightweight world champion against a 7-division world champion. Great athletes are females, because this becomes bigger than women's boxing. This becomes bigger in a way than boxing. This shows you that anything is possible.
No, it's not going to be the last time. It's the first, but not the last. We're going to show you have 2 pound for pound great females going in there, and we're going to show that we deserve this. We deserve the spotlight. We're going to show it. We're going to sell out the garden. So who said that they don't want to see women fight? You see, tune in Saturday night, and we're going to change your minds.
The chief executive of Wimbledon, Sally Bolton, has confirmed that the major tournament will not be implementing coronavirus vaccinations as a condition of entry. This follows on from the government ruling, although advised mandatory vaccinations are no longer a requirement to enter the UK. This decision ensures that Novak Djokovic will return to major tournament tennis, having missed out on the Australian Open earlier this year due to his vaccination status. Bolton also confirms that full capacity crowds will be welcomed back to Wimbledon as organizers plan to return to a normal championships.
So moving on with other matters that may be front of mind and regarding vaccination and other COVID-19 protocols. As you will be aware, the requirements set out by government to enter the UK do not include mandatory vaccination, and therefore, whilst of course it is encouraged, it will not be a condition of entry to compete at the championships this year. As we did last year, we plan to announce prize money for the championships during the early weeks of June. As Ian mentioned, we're planning to return to a normal championships this year, and so we don't intend to implement any of the COVID-19 measures that we saw last year in any substantial fashion. But we are, of course, keeping it on our radar in case we need to take further action, and we continue to engage with DCMS, public health officials, and with other sports. But of course, this means that players will be able to return to their own choice of accommodation. We will see full capacity crowds for the whole event, and we're absolutely thrilled to welcome back the wider tennis family to Wimbledon this year.
And that's all the sports news we have for you for now. Join us next time. My name is Mikhail Tinubu. Have a good night.
And the main news again. Senate passes amended Terrorism Act, criminalizes payment of kidnap ransom. Burkina Faso, Guinea asks ECOWAS for more time to propose timetable for transition. And Putin warns of lightning fast Russian retaliation to any interference in Ukraine. Well, that's the news now. For more stories, please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and do subscribe to our YouTube channel at PlusTvAfrica and PlusTvAfrica Lifestyle. I am Maureen Menongwezigwe. Thanks for watching.
There is no voting on social media. To vote, you would require a permanent voter's card. To get your PVC, visit cvr.inecnigeria.org. Create your account with a valid email address and start the registration process. An activation link will be sent to you. Click on the link and activate your account. Fill out the form, pick and submit a convenient date and time for your biometrics. Print the application slip, which should have your QR code. On the appointed date, go to the nearest INEC office for your biometric capturing. Thereafter, you will get a registration slip to pick your permanent voter's card when ready. Get your PVC today.